Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 196B. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge on the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot Segulin, and the Duke of You-Know. This episode, we took a Green Lantern Corps segment that was supposed to be on the last part of this, and actually Jim and I tonight did a Speeding Bullets segment. We talked in depth about Outsiders 26. If you look in the show notes, there's a lot of books we talked about on this episode, such as Batman and Robin number 7, Supergirl number 49. We talked about Justice League Cry for Justice number 6, and Justice League of America number 41. We talked about Azrael number 4. We had like a big in-depth discussion on all these books, so it's great. The Green Lantern Corps issue that I mentioned was Green Lantern Corps number 43, where we had a big talk about Kyle's return and also what happens with Red Lantern Guy Gardner from here. So it was interesting to have some fun discussions about those. We were joined by Myron Rumsey on that segment. Please check in the show notes to make sure we're not spoiling anything for you, because we talk about quite a few books on this episode and want you really to dig into this and enjoy it. I want to remind everyone we are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. You can also hear us on the Get Your Geek On Radio. GetYourGeekOnRadio.com, an online radio station committed to making geek chic. I want to remind everyone about the Hero Initiative. That's heroinitiative.org for more information. There's a handy-dandy link on RagingBullets.com, and we'd like to continue supporting that. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. As I've mentioned before on past shows, this time of the month where it's the start of February, and for any month, the start of the month, at DCBService.com, that's when we start to see the change over to the brand new books for the month, see what the new deals are. I like that because I like to see, not only for my monthly books, but as I mentioned, hardcovers and special editions and things like that, to see what kind of pre-order discounts I can get, because it helps me to kind of balance out my budget and decide what books I want to prioritize for. So if you haven't had a chance, check out DCBService.com in the coming week to see what the new deals are that are coming up for the month of February. And thank you, DCBService.com, for continuing to support us. Also on this episode, we're going to be talking about the Summit City Comic Con, which is put on by our good friends over at DCBService.com. Episode 199 will be joined by listener and friend of the show, Kent Hare, as we discuss JLA Avengers. It's going to be the once-in-a-lifetime crossover that brought two super teams together and rocked the comics world. And it's collected in trade paperback. You can own the entire 4-issue series. It's regularly $19.99, 47% off, only $10.59. That's 208 pages. Kurt Busiek, George Perez, DC Marvel. We're going to be talking about it on Raging Bullets on episode 199. Thank you, InStockTrades.com, for continuing to support us with that fantastic discount. Remember that episode 200 is going to be the greatest DC Universe stories of all time. So if you want to get those into us, contact us over at ragingbullets@gmail.com, or you can do our voicemail line, which is 1-440-388-4434, or drnorge on Skype. I want to be airing any of the comments that people have for the particular episode on there. Even if you want to just give us well wishes for episode 200 and you want to be heard on the show with that, please feel free to call that into the voicemail line. We'd love to have you on in some capacity as part of the show. But certainly send in any of your thoughts you have about what you think the greatest DC Universe story was of all time, because we'd love to have your thoughts brought in as part of the discussion. It's always kind of cool for us. The Raging Oscars is going to be our next episode. Actually, it's going to be a two-part episode. It's going to be the Raging Oscars and the Absolute Justice episode from Smallville. So we've got a biggie planned for episode 197. And then there's details of 198 through 200 actually up on the website as well. So I've kind of laid out what our next episodes are going to look like. I'm going to be probably doing these part A and Bs for the next couple, because there's a lot of content that Jim and I want to come in. It'll get us back to you in a little bit less than a week each time. So we're kind of dividing up the show and doing a little bit shorter in the sense that we're sticking around the 2.5 hour length on those parts, but trying to get in so much of the content that we want to get in over the next month or so, because we have a lot we want to get to. We're going to want to wrap up Preacher, we want to do JLA Avengers, so all that stuff we're going to get in before 200, and talk about a lot of current books and things as well. So whole bunch of episodes and content coming your way over the next month, and we'll get in Raging Oscars and our big celebration episode. So cool stuff. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth in plot line, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
You filthy criminals.
Now, Jim, this is a book. When I decided to split the show, I knew time-wise because of report cards I have to split the show. And I wanted to add some new content to this, so we had a full episode. Granted, to be a shorter one than quote-unquote usual, but at least something that feels meaty like a full Raging Bullets episode. So I'm like, what can we talk about? And honestly, this one spoke to me. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a controversial book that people are going to love, people are going to hate, and people are going to fall somewhere in the middle. Outsiders number 26. This is the first one with Dan DiDio and Philip Tan taking over. And I knew it was going to be one that would get people talking. And I knew it was one that was going to be interesting. And it's one, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not sure how to feel about right now. I had a very good time reading it, but then there were parts where I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? And there were other parts that I really enjoyed. I'm in one of those places, and I love when we have episodes like this where I'm not sure how to feel about the book. I'm really not. Where are you at on Outsiders number 26 before we kind of kick into talking about the meat and potatoes?
This was, talk about emotional roller coaster as I was reading it. My first read through, I can honestly say, when I put it down, I said, wow, I didn't like that. So then, immediately, first thing, whenever I find I don't like a comic, I go back and I reread it and I try to identify why I don't like it. And usually in the process, it'll either make me see things I didn't see before, or I'll get a better grasp on stuff. And one of the things I've always noticed with me, with anybody in general in life, if something creates an emotional response, there's something there. Now, if it's a negative emotional response, there's still a connection to it, and that's why if you see people who hate somebody with a burning passion, there's still a connection between those two people because they're able to spark that anger and that hatred. And if there's a book that sparks like a negative response from me, there's going to be a reason why. And for me, the main reason that I had a negative reaction to this thing initially was this felt like such a glaring difference than the previous issue. And, normally when we talk about a transition from one team to another, we always say how it's kind of nice to see a nice flow through and it feels like the same team. With this story, it felt completely different. And I was reading like a completely different person that I wasn't used to dealing with. And that was my initial why I had a negative response to it initially. I'm like, I knew who my outsiders were. I was getting comfortable with the team. And here they completely kind of changed around personalities. So that's when I started breaking down why the people that I liked and the characters were so different. And it was in that journey that I started seeing why they're acting and reacting differently, that I started saying, okay, there's something here that, I'm now no longer saying I dislike it. I'm now in the point where I'm like, okay, where are they going with this? And I'm now in that position where I can't really say like or dislike. It's one of those things where I have to continue reading this to see where it's going to take me. What's going to happen to these characters? Are they going to go back to that comfortable spot where I thought they were, or are they going to keep going off, diverting off on a different tangent? Is it going to be a change for the people that I like, or is it going to be, okay, are we going to get back to where I enjoyed it?
I think it's interesting because a lot of your comments, I'm like, I'm totally understanding where he's coming from. I'm right there with you. I had the same thing. My exposure to the Outsiders, I read the original Batman and the Outsiders series completely through. So Geoforce and characters like that, I've known as tried and true heroes from that series. And because, I grew up as a Batman nut, so, okay, we're splitting Batman off and having his own little team of outsiders and all that. Yes, I'm on board. I'm there. Cool. So it's interesting to see an issue. And one of my big glaring things was I did not like Geoforce at all in this.
Yeah, amen.
I wanted to tie him up at a Volkswagen lock and play punch buggy with him.
He's a prince. You can't do that to him.
Yeah. You can do a whole bunch of things. I really did. I was like thinking that. I'm like, boy, I want to beat this guy. And that's a hard place for me to be in with Geoforce because of my history with him and growing up loving this character. Where it started to work for me as I was reading the issue is Black Lightning. I latched onto him. Owlman. I liked that they were reacting in a way that it did not feel right to them either. Where did this come from? They were as jarred by this as we were as readers. You know, where Owlman's like, where did that come from? You know, those inner dialogue moments with them where they were disrupted by the whole thing. Katana's behavior was bugging me as well. And I liked that Black Lightning was really kind of calling, you know, internally and externally calling her to task on it. Like, what are you doing here? We don't operate this way. So those were moments where it was funny. I agree with you. My second, third read through where I'm like, okay, I'm getting this now. I'm with you where I'm still in an interesting comfort level on this, because a lot of my driving on this is based on, is Katana under her own control? Is she really making these decisions based on her believing in Geoforce? Is Geoforce really under his own control? Let's talk about some of the events in this issue, because, you know, when you see Geoforce in the beginning, he's in a very distraught place where we've seen that the events he's gone through in life, you know, to the people of Markovia, he's the king. But then he says, I'm a coward internally. To my teammates, I'm their leader, their liar internally. To the world, I'm a hero, a failure internally. You know, these type of things that he's internalizing. I must be everything to everyone. And you see, you know, his sister and that she was a Black Lantern, but then I am no one. So we see a guy who emotionally is distraught. We see that he tried to commit suicide post the events with Deathstroke. That the blade of Deathstroke did not do the things to him that his injuries showed. And I love that Owlman caught him on that and was trying to approach him as a friend, as a teammate, and say, look, man, I got the feeling that he was coming there to be the confidant, to be, you know, say, hey, if you need something, I'm here for you. And typical in those type of situations, Geoforce is pushing back. But I'm like, really? I just really, I'm with you. I'm like, this is very jarring. Where did this come from? And yet, I find myself wanting to know what's going to happen next. What's really happening there. I wonder if this... Did you read World's Finest number 4?
Yes, I did.
That reveal at the end by Lane, can we fool a Kryptonian?
Yes.
I have to wonder, is some of that playing in this? Because obviously he's talking about creating a decoy somewhere.
Yeah.
Are we seeing a decoy in here somewhere?
See,
Is it Geoforce? Is it Eradicator? I don't know. I was speculating as I was reading this. Is something controlling Geoforce? Is something messing with his head that we haven't seen yet? Or are we really seeing a new side to him that we never saw before? Is that the direction we're going? I don't know. These are questions that I'm asking, though, that I'm intrigued to find out. I guess that's what I'm playing out here, Jim, versus more of I'm looking for a direct answer. But that's where I started to realize, I'm like, okay, I'm interested in following this. It's not that I'm following it just because I've been reading Outsiders and I've been following the characters. Am I really interested in continuing to follow the direction that this seems to be going in? And right now I am. I am interested in the next issue. So while I'm with you in your anger and all that, or not anger so much as, your uncertainty. Yeah. I think that's a better word for it.
Uncertainty is a very good word.
Yeah. I think you and I are completely in sync there. I am intrigued for the next issue.
Yeah. And here's something, though, with the suicide kind of attempt. Mm-hmm. Now, I went back and I reread the Last Rites. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if... Because I when I first read it, I immediately thought the exact same thing you said, where he tried to commit suicide after the Deathstroke thing. But I'm wondering now if this is just remembering how he drew Deathstroke in. Because if you remember, he drew Deathstroke in by slitting his own throat. And then when Deathstroke moved in, that's when he stabbed him. So I don't know if there was another attack. I don't know if he's remembering, if that's just him remembering how he drew in Deathstroke.
Now that's what Roy's then reacting to, because that's a bizarre way to go to that level where you're slitting your own throat to pull Deathstroke in. Because, you could argue that slitting your own throat is attempting to kill yourself to get to your opponent.
And because if you remember at the end of that issue, Black Lightning shows up as like, man, he chopped at, he hacked at your leg and slit your throat, but you still got him. You still did it. You're a hero, man. And he's not. And you could.
So there was never the reveal that he actually tried to. He actually used
dealt
himself.
with a self-inflicted wound. So
Right.
I'm thinking that's all just him noticing the self-inflicted wound that he used to draw in Deathstroke.
I wasn't even thinking of it that way. It's funny how I didn't go back and read Last Rites.
Well.
And
I had to reread it when I read that because I was initially thinking suicide. Wait, he drew him in. I'm like, that's when I started. I'm like, I had to reread it again.
It was what, Last Days?
That was actually a really cool thing to reread.
Mm-hmm.
That was like after the second read through of this issue, I went back and reread that again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's.
I'm glad you brought that. I'm going to go reread that after. We're done chatting here because it's interesting. Now that you bring that in, I'm like, okay, so the wound is something that actually was established.
Yeah, and it's also
I forgot about that.
And here's the other thing: it really helped me kind of put more of a grasp on his mindset when he was going up against Deathstroke.
Oh, he was a mess.
He was a big time mess, and he went from that to dealing with all the outsider stuff and all that. So it's just been kind of like a compiling building on him.
Did he ever deal with it, I think, is the question.
He never actually dealt with it.
The death
and then
of Bruce.
His sister come back, and that just adds to the whole thing all over again. So that's when I really started understanding why he's being such a jerk and why I was disliking him so much. I'm like, okay, now I'm understanding a little bit why he's doing what he's doing. Now, are we going to get back the guy who was the hero, or is it going to keep going down this path, and is he going to continue being a jerk? That's where I'm at, the uncertainty. Because if we get the hero that I kind of was liking before, if we get him back, I'm like, okay, then this will be kind of neat. If he continues down the path, and then I'm like, I don't know.
That's the funny part, because I like Geoforce a lot, so that's part of the problem I'm having but I say that, and yet Black Lightning, I loved him in this. I loved that he was my eyes into this. So as much as I was ready to punch buggy Geoforce, I was ready to hug Black Lightning and high five him and do the whole rock thing, because I'm like, dude's totally with me. I'm totally in sync with him. Owlman, same thing. I'm like, okay, these are guys right now who are my focal point into this. I'm glad that they didn't modify everybody. Katana's another longtime favorite of mine, though, and to have her so drastically changed, her behavior and the way she's talking to Jefferson Pierce, Jefferson Pierce does not deserve that. But she's looking at him, though, as the consummate, at least looking like, as the consummate goody-goody, and that way doesn't work. And with everything she's seen with her family right now, the injustices that she's seen there, she's like, there's times where extreme justice is the only way to go. And if you're not willing to go there, if you don't have the stomach for it, stay out of my way. It's an interesting contrast. And how is this team going to come together? What will bring them back to a gelling point where they understand each other?
She was another one of those characters that I was like, what? She's being a real, and I was kind of angry about it. And then I started, once again, I was rethinking the recent events that had happened to her throughout the whole Blackest Night stuff with dealing with, her ancestors and her loved ones coming back and all that kind of garbage that she had to deal with. I'm like, okay, maybe that could be the tripping point to her. So maybe I'm like, so then I'm trying to justify where she's going. And she was another one, the exact same kind of character, when seeing her deal, just her and, Black Lightning just going back and forth and him just being right there. I was like, okay, we're going to still get more of a story out of these two. And we're going to get more story out of her. Because I didn't know if Jefferson was going to call, Geoforce out, or if he's going to call Katana, if he's going to call them all out. At one point in time, I was sitting there going, man, I wish, Black Lightning would just take over and say, forget all of you. I'm in charge of the outsiders now, and have him be the main, be the main leader and whatnot.
Are we going to see that? That's interesting to me. See, these are things, though, as you're saying that, these are things I'm thinking, too, and I'm interested in that. Is Owlman going to step up? What level is there going to be a coup? What does Metamorpho think of all this? Because we saw Metamorpho with the Creeper, but, what does he think about all this? And the Creeper thing I actually really liked, because it went back into some Creeper history, that obviously he wants that out of his system. He wants that gone, and that's always been one of his goals, and he thought that team would do that. But now he's part of this team that's in turmoil. He's like, how are they going to help me? Do I want to be a part of this? They can't even hold themselves together. I joined up when Batman was here figuring that, they were with the Langstroms. We've got an opportunity here where, we can really do something. Now I'm on this team that Batman's dead. Alfred was leading us. He's gone now because of everything that's going on in his world. This has completely changed. The disrespect of Geoforce to Alfred, too. If you want to push my buttons, disrespect Alfred.
Yeah. And it was weird because just Metamorpho kind of threw me in the way he basically just kind of, I don't, it's...
Oh, I like it. You're saying you didn't like Metamorpho there?
Not completely, because here's the thing. I understand what Creeper's going through. He wants that out of him, and Metamorpho went through a period where he wanted to be normal as well. He didn't want to be who he was. He wanted to go back to being Rex, the adventurer and whatnot.
But hang on one second. Here's where I actually got to side a little bit with Metamorpho here, because he was actually trying to sit down and get to know him for a lot of the reasons that I think you were. Because he's sitting here, explain it to me again. This is, Jack Ryder. Explain it to me again. Why are we here? Hey, we're teammates, Jack, and this is what teammates do. They bond over a cup of coffee. Besides, the better we know each other, the better we can work together. So he's trying to bond with this guy and get to know him and try to find a common ground. Listen, Rex, you seem like a nice guy, so don't take this the wrong way. But I don't care. Not about you, the team, any of this. There's a creature inside me. I want it out. I thought you guys could help me, but I was wrong. Now I'm stuck here. So he's basically just, flipping him off.
Yeah.
And, that's not a good way to, all the guy's trying to do is bond with him. And honestly, they could have bonded over what you just said. Now, I love that he left. I love that Metamorpho left him with basically a stink smell.
Yeah. No, see, here's the funny thing. I read that completely different than you read it.
Okay.
I'm also a very sarcastic son of a gun, and I kind of read it that Metamorpho was opening up being sarcastic, but if he was being actually open and honest and friendly,
well, he called him there. So what else did he call? I can't imagine him calling Jack Ryder there to berate him. Metamorpho's the one that suggested that they go in and have this chat.
And I think probably it's just more of, I don't know. That's one of the things with comic books. Sometimes, if your personal mood that you're in when you read it does affect how you read this. And when I first read through this, I was still kind of really thrown for what I was dealing with Geoforce and with Katana. So I immediately thought that.
So you were looking for things. You were kind of targeting characters, trying to find flaws.
I think so.
Okay.
I honestly think I was probably going, what the heck? And then when I read this, just my sarcastic nature, suspicious nature, just naturally jumped in. And of these two, I went after Metamorpho because, I don't know, I probably just went after him because...
and it is funny. That's an interesting point about how you can read a book differently depending on your mood. When I was reading it through the first time, I was hopelessly looking for familiarity and comfort. So I'm like, oh man, thank God he's calling him on this. Black Lightning, oh, thank goodness he's talking about Katana and Brian's behavior. What's going on here? And Metamorpho here, he's trying to pull a teammate in. He's trying to make a team thing out of this, which is what I'd expect from a guy who's got such a rich history with the Outsiders. You're right that that perspective. That's why I wanted to talk about this, because I figured the two of us, this was such a controversial book for me to read, that I figured, I'm like, well, this is kind of interesting to chat about this one because we're going to be in weird places with this book.
And it's funny, as we're talking, I'm completely did a 180, completely changed around. I'm seeing exactly how you see it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is kind of cool, and I'm even able to enjoy more of the the little methane backup that he left for him. I was like, okay, yeah.
But I like Jack Ryder's little attitude. Jack, you still got it, even when you stink.
Well, I don't know if that's much of a claim to fame there. That seems like one of my exes. She's got some issues, definitely.
She's going to have his babies and lots of them.
That's an indicator we have a slight... I don't want to use the word crazy because, she's just eccentric.
Do you think the dog is growling at her or him?
Oh, that's definitely growling at him.
Yeah,
that's a definite growling at him.
You're so stupid.
So, yeah. So that should be interesting, seeing where that little story arc is going to go. Because that's going to lead into a future story. And what is the deal with the dog? And are we going to get a creeper versus the dog situation?
I loved the artwork. The battle with Katana on the boat. Yeah. And when Captain Fear got involved, and then we got to see that one-on-one, sword fight. I thought that was gorgeously done. It's a really good-looking book.
Yeah, change on the art style, with the whole new creative team, but not a change in that it's a different look, but it's not a change in genre, if you will. It's still that same type of, comic book type style with a kind of a realistic base type drawing.
Now, here's the interesting part. Katana takes advantage of when Black Lightning brought the lightning down on him during the battle. Mm-hmm. And she stabbed him straight on through. Now, I'm taking it that she didn't know whether he would live or die, and she stabbed him with the intent of it being fatal.
Yeah, she went for the kill blow, the killing strike, but he lived. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was an interesting statement where she's like, I don't taste this soul on this blade. So I'm like, okay, he's still alive, but she was going for the kill strike, and that's really a whoa kind of moment. And that's something that, yes, she dealt with some serious stuff, but we're seeing a dramatic change in personality. I can understand. I'm more upset in her dramatic change in personality, as I've got to reread through and talking about stuff than I am with Geoforce. Because Geoforce, I kind of understand what he's doing, but with her, I am really just kind of like, what's going on here? And I'm like, I want to know what's her deal.
Well, do you think Geoforce and her are bonding over their intense tragedies? I see, to me, a lot of times, it's a very real fact. Negativity like that, one person being so down, not so down, the loss of his sister, having her brought back to life again, having to face her dead on. Katana went through similar things. Do you think the two of them having to go through that have bonded them in this downward spiral?
It could be. There could be some scenes that we're not seeing, the behind the scenes, stuff that we're not seeing.
But we did see the common things happen to them in the previous issues. So I'm with you in the sense if it happened, it's behind the scenes. But I think that is something that's consistent with where Tomasi's run wrapped up with those Blackest Night issues. It was interesting to me because these are characters who it's hard for me right now because a lot of my favorite teams are just now finally starting to do the turnaround. We're seeing those seeds being laid for things like Titans and Teen Titans to be kind of reformed again. Justice League, which I think we'll talk about in a couple minutes. I'd like to talk a little bit about what's been going on with Justice League kind of casually in a Speeding Bullets. But we're seeing Justice League now finally transitioning back into a team again that feels like the greatest team of heroes assembled.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like it should feel.
Outsiders has been one that's pretty consistently been to me what they are. Even with the shift with Bruce dying, Alfred taking over the team, kind of taking on Bruce's mantle, and then leading to where Tomasi took it, and how Geoforce was kind of stepping up as the leader there as well. That was all working for me. So it was interesting to see this team put into turmoil like this. I'm like, wow, really? It makes sense with the events of Blackest Night. I understand it. But his sanctions that Brian's doing with it's so in the face of what Batman would normally do. Batman would not sanction people being killed.
Yeah,
going out to sea.
It's the underlining rule.
Right. It goes against who the outsiders are. What did you think about the Eradicator reveal at the end? The partnership with New Krypton with the Eradicator. It made me question, I'm like, is that really the Eradicator? He's been a part of the Outsiders before. So
see, I didn't know that he had any connection to the Outsiders before. Mm-hmm. And I always thought Eradicator was dead. So when I saw him, I'm thinking, didn't he die? I thought he, when the end there, when Soup came back, I thought we lost the Eradicator completely, and that was it.
No, Eradicator had appeared multiple times. He'd been a part of the Outsiders. He's one of those characters that even when he appears to die, tends to pop up again.
Okay.
So he wasn't done there. You're talking about at the end of Death and Return of Superman?
Yeah.
No. He was in the DC universe after that. Oh, he was a part of Outsiders.
Yeah, see, never read with him involved in the Outsiders or never. So that really threw me. And then I'm asking myself, is he really even associated with New Krypton? Because he's not from the House of L.
Yeah.
So that, for me, I'm thinking...
Well, wait. Here's a question.
Yeah.
You don't have to be... Not everybody on New Krypton's House of L.
He's wearing the House of L symbol on his chest.
Oh, yeah, because that's his Eradicator
outfit. That's why I'm saying it.
Yeah. That's his Eradicator outfit, though, when he was sent from Krypton by... He took on that. Well, yeah, he took on that appearance, I think, thematically.
Yeah, so I'm like, if he's not of the House of L, he shouldn't be wearing the colors. And that's something
that's my question mark, though, with what happened at the end of World's Finest.
Right.
Is this really the Eradicator? I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm 100% convinced of what I'm saying there. I'm just throwing out there a possibility I was thinking of. There's a lot of things I was tossing around, and I'm not really stuck on anything. Sometimes I'll get a theory, and I'm like, oh, I think I've nailed it in this one. I'm not in that place. There were a lot of things running through my head. I wondered how, is somebody controlling Brian? Is somebody controlling Kitana? And yet, the more it's funny where you've changed my mind on a lot of those things. The more we were talking, where you were bringing up these things from Blackest Night that have happened to them, and going back to the Last Days. Was it Last Days?
No, it's
Last Will and Testament.
Last Will and Testament.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I've called it Last Rites, Last Days, just about everything else except Last Will and Testament.
End of Days.
Yeah, End of Days. Yeah, that great movie. No, honestly, Last Will and Testament of the DCU with Brian, you brought that up, and I'm like, well, gee, I didn't even remember that. Good call there. It's interesting now that that's been brought in. I'm convinced this is totally him. I'm convinced it's totally her, and we're dealing with two people who are dealing with the emotional trauma of what they've been through. So then my question mark's still on Eradicator, if that's really him. There is a connection to the Outsiders, though, so it could truly be the Eradicator, and we are seeing a partnership here. What is that going to mean? And it is interesting how this team's going to get very political now, because how are Owlman and Black Lightning and ultimately Metamorpho going to deal with these changes?
Because this is a bit weird. It's, the partnership with New Krypton is a smart move on his part. Mm-hmm. If this is a true partnership with New Krypton, and if Eradicator is an actual honest representation from the planet, it's a good idea for him. I question whether he actually is a representative of New Krypton. I think it's kind of I want to say a bluff that Geoforce is doing on the rest of the world. Knowing that there probably won't be anybody who could really call his bluff on it, or kind of make it look like, hey, stay away from Markovia. We now have Kryptonians backing us, kind of deal.
See, this is interesting to me because it's funny. Even the more you and I talk about this, the more intrigued and interested I am in the book. I don't know how I feel about it all yet, but I am they're doing the right thing as far as I want to read the next issue. I really do. And honestly, it's one of those, I'll read it very early in my stack that week.
This won't be my first, 27 won't be the first read I do, but it won't be the last. And depending on what it's up against when it comes out, it'll be relatively high in the stack because I want to know what happens. But it's, there's other stories, that'll probably beat it out, but it's not going to be something, because what happens is, we get our comics usually on the Thursday, and I read mine when I come home from work, so I got a couple hours of comic book reading. I get in time, I eat my dinner, I go upstairs, I read some comic books, so I only got time on Thursday night for just a couple reads, and then I got to get ready and go to bed. This may make it on a Thursday night reading, if depending on what it's up against. That's how curious I am into it. It's I gotta know what's going to happen to these people, and especially Black Lightning, because he's the guy who I really want to see get more of a solid presence in the DCU, a better positioning, if you will, because he's a great character. He's got some really, with the right writer, he's a cool guy that I'd like to hang with, and he's a kind of hero I'd like to be friends with. So, seeing him in this very uncomfortable position has me one worried about the character, but also worried about what's going to happen to my friend. So I want to see that as well.
Yeah. So it's funny. I have this isn't a book I would drop in a million years right now because they've got me interested. It's just hard because it's a book before that I definitely wouldn't drop because I know I love it. And I don't know where I'm at right now, which is always an interesting transition point. I think that's true of any creative change, any type you're changing the status quo where you're really settled in a team. I think it's an appropriate time to talk about that, though, because you've seen a lot of people say things about Titans and things like that, and Justice League, and where are these teams going? When are we going to get them back to being the teams that we expect? I think whenever you go through that, you have that emotional response, like, am I going to like the new direction? And I'm in that place right now. I don't know where I'm at with this direction. I'm interested, though. When I read it through my first read through, I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. What have you done? Yeah. The more I think about it, though, the more I delve into it, you're right that it makes sense. And it's an interesting exploration. I love that we're dealing with the real emotional traumas of where they've been. Where are they going to go, though? What is it going to take to get Geoforce back to be that hero? Is he going to be that hero
Is he
again?
going to be that?
I don't know.
Yeah. Will this end up being Black Lightning in The Outsiders and have him take over and Geoforce goes away? Will he? What's going to happen there? That's the thing. As I keep throwing back, I am worried and wondering and concerned about Black Lightning. I think the most because I don't want to see him go away. He's not in the JLA. I'd love him in the JLA, and I wish he was on that team. But if he's not going to be there, I want the Outsiders to be somewhat of a solid, fundamental team.
Cool.
Holy caffeine!
Jim, there's a couple things I want to shout out before we get started in the show. First of all, you and I are going to be at the Chicago C2E2 convention. And I'm really excited for this because we're going to be in the podcast arena like we've been in New York with some of our fellow podcasters. That convention looks absolutely awesome. I'm excited to be there on this one. And actually, you and I had a great idea. We did this at New York. Was it the first year that we went?
Yeah, it was our first year.
I'd love to have a listener, and basically what we're offering here is a free pass to a listener or two who would like to help us out. We basically, when we go to the con, one of our key focuses is news coming out of panels. We do podcasts immediately following the convention about any DC news that are coming out of the various DC panels that are there. But obviously the big one is DC Nation. And there's usually 2 DC panels. I don't know if that's what the plans are for C2E2. We haven't seen the schedule yet. There's usually one on Friday, and there's usually one on Saturday. The reason why we'd like 2 listeners, ideally, is we would like to be able to both go to that panel, but we need somebody to man our table during that panel. And also a couple other times during the day just to give us a quick break where we can go out and get something to drink or something like that and come back in.
Or go to the bathroom.
Yeah, whatever. Because usually during the day, one of us is around checking out the con, getting news, going to the other panels that we don't necessarily both have to be at. But obviously the big 2 DC panels would be what we're looking for. So we're looking for 1 or 2 listeners who would be interested in a free ticket to the con. You'd basically have free reign of the con, be able to go and enjoy the con and all that. We definitely need you for the DC Nation panel. But then you'd be free for any other panels that you really wanted to go to and things like that. And then ideally, we would need you to just pop by a couple times during the day and just relieve us, one of us, whoever's there, just so that way our table always has somebody there. So, and that's it. And when we say relieve us, just for a few minutes and stuff so we could maybe walk the show floor or, those type of things. But we'd want to make sure that there's always somebody at our table. If we don't get anybody for that, then Jim or I will be at the table the whole time. It's no big deal on that end. But we'd love to, as a way of thanking you, pay for your convention ticket if you're willing to do this. So if you're interested, shoot us an email to ragingbullets@gmail.com and just let us know, and we'll try to work that out. So it's a great way if you're tossing around, I don't know if I want to go to the con or not. This is a great way to go to the con for free. So it's if you're going to be in the area for C2E2, Jim and I are willing to flip the bill if you're willing to work for this for a little bit. So, cool deal. And actually, obviously, awesome. We'd love to have you on the show if you're going to be there and that type of thing. So we'd do some recording with you as well. So that'd be kind of a fun thing to do. So let us know. I'm excited for that con, though. If the guest list, every week they're adding new guests to it. And if you haven't gone there, go to the C2E2 website. It's c2e2.com, and it's for the Chicago Convention. They keep adding, it was 10 guests. 10 new guests were just added this week, and it looks like they're going to be doing this every week. So now we're really getting into, for a while there, they just had the guests of honor that were going to be there, and then the featured guests. And they stayed the same for a long time, and now they're just adding people all the time. Ethan Ben Skyver, Ben Templesmith, Mike Magnola, Jeff Smith, Greg Land, Jeff Johns, Adam Hughes. I mean, it's people from all around comics. Jackson Geist, Chuck Dixon. I'm Ron Garney. Keep going through. There's just a whole bunch of guests that are going to be there, and Gene Haas going to be there, friend of the show. Mike Norton's going to be there. It's just a great list of people that are going to be there. Franco from Tiny Titans, and it's a cool list. So.
Yeah, it's Chicago, that toddling town.
I knew you were going to.
I'm not going to sing the full version. Yeah.
But the Chicago Comic Con is going to be really great. It's one of the New York Con has become one of my favorite ones, and it's April 16th to the 18th, 2010. It's at the McCormick Place. So if you're going to be there, we'd love to see you. I've got actually on our forums. There's a thread. If you're going to be there, please stop by the forums and let us know, because I'm trying to. And eventually, what I'm going to do is set up a list of people so we can contact you and hopefully get to hook up with you. But there's a newsletter on their website, and if you join the newsletter, as they update the guest list, that will come to your email box. So definitely sign up for the newsletter and do that. So kind of cool. Jim, I want to shout out David Barron's blog and his Twitter page. David is doing a wonderful contest where you get an entire month worth of DC comps. To get access to those comps, to be entered into the contest, all you've got to go to is myzombies.blogspot.com. Make sure to follow his blog. Go to twitter.com/myzombies. Follow his Twitter page. He's going to pick every month a person from his Twitter page or his blog who is going to win that prize for this month, and every month he's going to do a different prize. So listen to the show. We're going to be announcing new prizes that David's going to be doing. And if you haven't been by his blog page, he does original artwork on the blog page, but he often talks about the process to create those things. Also, he talks about, his personal life, himself. It's a great way to get to know a creator, and it's updated constantly, so it's just great to see that. And
it's a fun read, and it's enjoyable, and you get this great contest that I'm like, dang, that's really neat.
Right now he's got a blog up there with a color artist viewpoint on the iPad, and how that could change comics, because that's one of the big things. The iPad was supposed to be the one that we've been waiting for to see how that's going to change the comic industry. And it's always fun to hear the comic creator perspective on things. But he's got original color sketches, digital color sketches that he does up there all the time. And I'm a big fan of that, seeing things that you can only see on that blog and having access to those things and direct access to a creator. I think it's one of the things where the internet, I think a lot of times we focus so much on what the negatives are on that and the internet. And I think that's one of the positives now, is that this interactivity we have with the comic creators, something we always wanted. We got that through letter pages growing up, but not on this level, where you can really deeply be involved with the creators. And I think it's great that they're reaching out to their audiences like that. So if you haven't joined up to his Twitter page and his blog, please do so. I think it's very cool that he's doing a contest to kind of bring everyone in and, thank everyone for being fans. So please make sure that you sign up for those things. Kind of cool. Jim, friends of the show and show sponsors, Summit City Comic Con is going to be put on by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. They're friends of the show. It's May 22nd. It's going to be in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is their first time having the Summit City Comic Con. And they have a great guest list. That's pretty close for you and me, too. I was looking at that. Fort Wayne, Indiana, that's not too bad of a road trip.
Yeah, I think there's one bridge we'd have to cross.
Right.
But I think it's doable.
But I kind of want to go to this, because it's so close by. It's a new one. They've got a great guest list that's going to be there. Art Baltazar is going to be there. Mike Norton's going to be there. I'm just going through this list. I know Zach Cruz. I know he's on my Facebook page. Sean Pryor from PKD Media is going to be there. I'm not going to do any of this justice. David Wachter is going to be there. There's a great big guest list that's going to be there. And if I'm sure that's going to be updated too before the con, but that's May 22nd, and they've already got a nice sized guest list for a convention that's starting off in May. So I'm thinking of hitting this baby. But I wanted to shout it out. They're sponsors and friends of the show, and I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support us, and I'm really excited about that conventions right around the corner. I'm glad to see more conventions popping up, local conventions, as well as the biggies. Like, it's nice to have the combination of the two, because there's something about the small, intimate conventions, then there's something about the big, huge media glitz conventions as well. So it's funny to talk about C2E2 and then talk about the Summit City Comic Con. Both, I think you need both. As fans, I like both types of conventions, so I'm excited for this. And we got Super Show coming up.
Yes.
So this is going to be a big year. Super Show's in March. So
yeah, this is going to be a good summer.
yeah. Anybody's going to be at Super
spring.
Show. We're going to be there as well. It's the CGS Super Show, and I'm excited to be hitting that as well. So it's going to be a nice year for conventions right now. I was thinking this year, I'm like, I don't know how many conventions I'll be able to hit this year. I'm like, I've already got 3 on my list, and it looks like I'm hitting for sure. So, and we're just not even past May yet when we're looking at the months. So it's kind of cool. It's going to be a good year for cons.
To the Batmobile. Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed. You're ready to move up.
Jim, I want to talk for a little bit. This week was an insane week. And when I say an insane week, an insanely good week of releases for comics.
In a good way.
When I opened up my box this week, I'm like, oh my gosh, the amount of just great books. We got Wonder Woman, Superman Secret Origin. We got 3 Superman-related books, 2 Justice League books, Batman. We got, just all kinds of Blackest Night stuff, Azrael. It was a very cool week. And every time I picked up a book, I was like, oh my gosh, how do I even sort out my stack of what books to read? Because there's just so many great titles. I'm not even doing it justice because it was literally one of those. I usually take my stack when I first open them up, and I kind of start sorting through like my top 5 of books. Because you talked about the Thursday night read in the last segment. And I agree with you. I do that on Thursday nights. I get my books, and I start prioritizing as far as which ones do I want to read first. And as I go through my stack, I want to read all of them because that's why I bought them. But there's usually ones where I'm like, I've really got to get to this. I had the toughest time ordering this, putting them in a stack where I'm like, which Wonder Woman looks really cool. Look at that cover with the crows. And then, there's so much cool stuff going on. In Justice League, I kind of want to see what's going on there. And, because it was the first issue where we got to see the team starting to come back together. And then there's Cry for Justice. And I honestly put that on top of the Justice League book because I knew that that's a lead-in to the Justice League book. I forgot there's another issue after that of Cry for Justice, though. I thought that was the last issue because of the team change, if that makes any sense.
Oh, no, I'm in complete agreement. I was thinking the same thing, and that's what I did. And
the Superman books, because I've been enjoying following the various Superman titles, and I wanted to know in Supergirl what was going on with Lana. So it was really cool, to have this kind of problem. And then Secret Origin, I've been digging like crazy, so I didn't know where to start. I want to talk a little bit about Batman and Robin number 7, The Body. Because The Body and What Is It has been one of those things that has been on my mind as a Batman fan for ages. It can't be Bruce because it has to be a clone, because this has been thrown around on the net, clone from Final Crisis. It wouldn't be a stretch, actually. And it's interesting to me, though, more interesting than the fact that is this a clone, which is what I'm thinking it is, the implications of that. My feeling now is that not only is Bruce alive, but that he never died. The body in the skull was never his. Bruce Wayne, in quotes, was a huge giveaway during Blackest Night. Clark found the body of a clone, never knew that it was Darkseid's clone. When he grabbed it, it matches up to the DNA test because of it, and Bruce has always been alive. Bruce never died. So he's living these lives over and over again, but does living those lives now mean that he ever had to die? No.
Yeah.
He's being sent through time through the Omega Sanction, but Bruce never actually died. He's time lost going through these motions throughout history. At least that's where my head's at with the whole thing, and I find that incredibly intriguing.
Yeah, it's one of those, when I was reading through this, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. And then as you and I had an conversation, we were talking, that's when you mentioned the clone thing. I'm like, oh my God. And that got me thinking with, because you think about with the whole coming back and during Final Crisis, as the Flash came back and all that, and everyone said, why didn't that really affect the outcome of Final Crisis? And Flash, he did some stuff, but was he really needed to finish off Final Crisis? And he wasn't. But we find out in Blackest Night that was all part of Necron's scheme, and that's why he got brought back in there. He brought him back at that point in time to set up for this. Now, if they're using also Bruce's skull, he obviously had to know that was a clone of Bruce. So it's once again all part of the playing it out, and we're seeing now more tie-ins and connections to some of the threads of Final Crisis getting played out in Blackest Night and being, kind of, I don't want to, kind of like meshed into continuity and just, understanding and explained and just, justification and some of this stuff, even making it more connected between Blackest Night and Final Crisis. So we're looking at, I'm agreeing with you. This is probably a clone, has been a clone all along. So where is this going to take us?
That's why there was no download.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing to download.
Yeah, he's, back in time somewhere.
I did like seeing Dick with Squire in this issue, because it was an interesting contrast to Damian. It shows how well Dick's history with Bruce has prepared him for working with Bruce's allies. So, I mean, those were moments where seeing them together, and seeing Batman in England. I always like the crime fighter aspect of the character, and while I know that his loyalty and drive, or, the Batman concept, the loyalty is to Gotham City and to changing things there, I love seeing him operate in other locations. I like seeing him deal with their culture, their villains, their police structure. It brings back this feeling of the world's greatest detective, because you see him in these different locations. I grew up with him in the 70s, not only in Gotham, but seeing him in these other locations. You see it a lot in the old classic Brave and the Bold issues and things like that. And it was something that Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams did somewhat in that run as well, where, he's still the Gotham Crusader. He's still that guy, but yet there were reasons and cases that took him out of the country. It made sense. And it works today as well. And I think it does make the character interesting, and see him try to blend into those cultures where he hasn't crafted this dark world around him. So how does he deal with that, and how does he adapt? And seeing Dick in this role, in this place, it actually even feels even more comfortable with things we saw in Nightwing with him when Peter Tomasi took over. We got to see him. I like seeing this Batman a little bit more in the public eye again. And I'd like to see, when Bruce does come back, to see Bruce deal with some of that. It's interesting to me to see Dick not sure, not so much not sure of his role, but wanting Bruce back so bad that he's willing to step aside for that reason, if that makes sense. Like saying, I'm ready to put the pixie boots back on, not because he's really going to go back to being Robin, but he wants his mentor back, his father back, his brother back. And there's multiple ways that he refers to Bruce, and he looks at Bruce as a figure in his life. And this is somebody who, even with the turmoil that those two have had over the years, they have such a rich history, and they really are like family. They love each other, yet there's been times where they fight like family. And they fought hard like family. And it's great to see Dick in this place where, I don't, honestly, when Bruce comes back, I don't care if Dick remains Batman or if Dick becomes Nightwing again. I could go either way. I want Bruce back because I want to see those interactions between them. I can wait for it. I want to wait for it because I want this to be a journey. So I want to see that, and I want to see Bruce's journey. I don't want Bruce to all of a sudden plop back into the book and not know what happened to him. I want to ride that ride. I want to see those minis. I want to see what happened to him. I want to see Dick have adventures while this is all going on. I want to see Dick gradually discover what happened to him. I want to see Dick and Tim work together on this. Because now, through this journey, I think he's going to wake up and realize, I need to talk to Tim. He was right all along.
Yeah.
And that's going to be interesting to see them bond together over this.
And the interesting thing with, when you're dealing with brothers here, because these two are brothers, and you've got your brother, I've got my two brothers, and, the weird thing is, you're the oldest and I'm the youngest of our, respected families. And I know when you deal with your brother, you're probably going to have a little bit different reactions than when I deal with mine. Because, no matter what I do in life or where I'm at, my brothers do look at me as their little brother. And I've had a couple times when I've been dealing with them and I was right on something and they were wrong. And it was difficult for them to admit that I was right on it. Part of it is because, who I am. I'm their little brother. And it's you have an issue sometimes. That's a problem. And I've always enjoyed seeing, the Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, Tim Wayne relationship as they treat them like true brothers. So this is going to be, for me, kind of a nice thing seeing the older brother have to tell the younger brother, hey, you were right and I was wrong. And, so that is what I'm looking forward to kind of see, not just the bonding these two will have over this, but that moment, that the one moment that we know is coming in time where they handle that. And I want to see how it's going to be, whether it's going to be actually something or it could just be one of those quick little, okay, you were right. Yeah. Move on type of deals. I don't know how they're going to play it yet, but I want to see that.
It's funny when we were talking about finding the Lazarus Pit. We talk about Batwoman seeing her in the coffin, the crime Bible brought into this whole thing. Cyril taking over the legacy, but Dick still wishing Bruce was back. It's funny how there was that bonding there where Squire's like, you have a lot in common with him because he's in that same place that you're in, trying to fill those big shoes. I love seeing that kind of exploration. I also want to talk about real quick Alfred and Talia because it's a nice setup for things to come. Because I think she always had the secret hope that Bruce would come back, that Bruce was still alive. She had the same feeling that Dick did, that he's this guy that escapes everything. He has to be still out there. That there has to be that opportunity. But she ultimately wanted Damian to take over for Bruce. This is, her father. She had that obsession with Bruce and that Damian now is going to be that next person. And it's the mantle of the bat rightfully belongs to her son, the blood of Bruce Wayne. Well, we see the relationship that Dick and Damian has formed and find out that has somehow changed Damian for the better. Will Damian be able to follow his mother or ultimately fail? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where does Damian fit into all this? Where will he go? I see him being a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I see him not realizing that he's built a stronger bond with Dick Grayson than even he thinks.
And he's built a stronger bond with Alfred. Mm-hmm. And that's something I'm really liking seeing.
Pennyworth?
What?
Pennyworth?
Yeah.
No, because he always calls him Pennyworth.
Right, but here's the thing. One of the things I'm not
disagreeing with you.
I'm just trying to explain. It's not an outward thing. They're not going, "Hey, Alfred, thanks a lot." There's still going to be that, that servant, master type relationship, but there is going to be some changing. And you saw that with Alfred when he was talking to her, when he's talking to Talia, saying, well, maybe you'll be right, maybe you'll be wrong kind of deal, where he sees it. The kid may say the same words back and forth, but the connotation, those nonverbal communications have changed. There is a different level of communication. It's not just completely dismissing Alfred as just being a servant. Right. He may still call him Pennyworth, and he may still look at classes, but he is now seeing Alfred as a person. He's now seeing him as an entity, as part of the Bat universe. And I think, we're going to see... I don't want to say it's not going to be an outward change in Damian, but there is going to be a change.
I think if that does happen, though, it's going to surprise Damian. I think Damian, if Mom says something, Damian will initially go along with it and then learn that there's something more there than he ever realized. I don't think it's going to be as cut and dry as Damian's going to make the choice right away. I think he is going to initially follow Mom. Or think that he should. And then find out that he's got inner turmoil that he never expected. I think that's going to be that's just my personal take on it. I think it's going to be interesting. I agree with you. I think one of the reasons why I threw out Pennyworth is I think Damian fights so hard to not have those connections, because he's for so long disrespected them that and I think to the point where he tries too hard now to do it at times. That I think he's going to be.
He thinks he doth protest too much.
Agreed.
Kind of deal. He has these emotional responses. He's having these emotional reactions, and he doesn't know how to deal with them. His previous life wasn't about emotion.
Right.
It was about just the task at hand. You're a killer. Do this, do that. It's strike. No fear, no thought, no remorse. Bam. Well, the one thing that Dick Grayson and Alfred and even Tim a little bit has instilled in him is emotional responses. And even when he has these negative outbursts, when he has these lashings out, and especially with Tim, when he was having those early on lashing outs against Tim, saying, you're not worthy of this, and you're nothing, you're not his real son, kind of dealings. Those were Damian dealing with an unknown emotional factor. He didn't know how to deal with jealousy. He didn't know how to deal with, combating for, someone's attention and or respect / love, and who knows where it could go to. So there is something definitely, especially this near-death experience. I see that changing Damian as well, because, this is, he's in the super goop tank kind of thing to get fixed up. He had a nasty reaction there, and it's kind of, if I don't know how to, I don't want to say he's going to come back the kinder, gentler guy and have this retrospection, but this is going to affect him.
I think he's going to be shocked by how it affects him, though.
Well, any emotional response, he's shocked by.
Mm-hmm.
He's never been taught how to deal with emotions.
Right.
It's, one of the things that, a lot of people will say, what good is school? Well, that kind of stuff. What do you really learn in school these days? The one thing you learn in school is interaction with people, how to deal with your own personal emotions, your own personal growth kind of stuff. Damian never had anything remotely like that. He's had training, not schooling. He's had, combat scenarios, not life lessons. He's now, for the first time, he's learning how to deal with people. And
people with different philosophies, people with different backgrounds, people with different beliefs, people, I deal with, as a teacher, I teach third grade, I deal with on a daily basis social interactions and their consequences and positive and negative aspects of social interactions and, helping teach some morality. I'm not talking about a religious morality. I'm talking about just a social morality that we all have in order to survival skills in the real world. And that's the truth is. We teach at school, and any school does this, religious or otherwise. There's an unwritten curriculum where you teach people right and wrong of interacting with each other, and it does not have to have a religious base. In a public school, I don't teach it from a religious base. I teach it from a right and wrong base. A social right and wrong. As far as you can't go and punch somebody on the playground. You just can't. There are rules, and that's in our society. On the playground, it is, if somebody wrongs you, you go to the proctors on the playground. You go to the teacher, and they help you to deal with that. We go to the police. We don't have vigilante justice out in the street where we all of a sudden, all get into a truck and start driving around shooting things up because somebody wronged us. We go to the police. We go to the people that are our protectors to help us. We teach kids how to deal with society as an adult. And Damian never went through any of that stuff. Yeah. So it's really interesting as you're talking about that. I'm like, oh, no, you're totally reading to me. I actually I would be disappointed, and I can't see Morrison doing this in a million years, if Damian Olsen, bam, was this all of a sudden, wow, now I'm on board with everything. I want to see a slow change. Where I think some of those reactions that we're talking, I agree with you that I think there's going to be a reaction. I think it is going to surprise him because I don't think he realizes what he's learned in the positive interactions with Dick and Alfred. And I think we're going to see some of that where Damian's going to realize I am a little different. And I think that change is going to continue over time. And I think that's what's making him interesting to me, is seeing his growth. Seeing him grow into a different person and see things differently. And I like that. And it's something where I want to follow this character more and more because I'm seeing that gradual growth. Gradual.
Yeah, it's
more realistic.
I'm glad he's, he is the Robin for this. This is, this title. I'm liking seeing this. I'm enjoying what I'm reading now, and it's something that, I'm looking forward to when he comes back. I'm looking for when Tim's back in Gotham because that's going to be coming soon, and just seeing how those two interact with each other now, with Tim being Red Robin and, Tim being, a little bit more edgier. Damian's going to be a little bit softer, but not really. He's still going to put up that, that front of his. So there's so much stuff I'm looking forward to seeing that, it's funny that the fact that, Dick took the whatever, and put him in the Lazarus pit. Yeah, I want to see what happens with that. But for me, it's more of Dick's reaction to dealing with what the monster that comes out at him. Damien's reaction if he ever learns that Dick did that with the Lazarus Pit. Tim's reaction, because if you remember back when a while ago with Tim was offered, Tim wanted to use the Lazarus Pit to bring back his family, bring back his loved ones. He was gonna, he was tempted to sign on with Ra's al Ghul. And it was, Dick who basically kind of reminded him that you can't deal with Ra's. You have to, you can't make a deal with the demon head. It's a bad deal for you. And seeing Tim deal with when he finds out that Dick put the quote unquote body of Bruce in a Lazarus Pit. I'm really curious to see those interactions that are going to come out of this story.
When I saw the Lazarus Pit, I was thinking about the fact that that episode where you were talking about that you want to be cremated. And I was thinking to myself, like, what would I do if I found a Lazarus Pit and you were already dead? I would hope that I caught some of your ashes, preferably the thumbs, so I could, like, at least set up a Watish statue to you. And then I would put them in the Lazarus Pit to at least get them back.
Well, you're still going to have my skull, though, because, the cremation, I'm going to make sure it's in the rule. It's, in my will and all that.
Did I get the skull?
You get the skull. The rest of my body will be cremated, but you'll have the skull.
So if I can get the skull and maybe catch some of the ashes for the thumbs, then I could set up a neat little display. Because I'm all about the display.
Yeah.
I'd like to set up a little, Watish display.
You can always just use mannequin hands, to be honest with you. I think you get a nice, classy mannequin hand.
Yeah, but how cool would it be if I actually had, like, your thumbs for it? I mean, like, part of it, like a statue, like a Smithsonian kind of thing, where, like, wow, these were Jim's real thumbs that he did this with.
Hey, you know what? Here's what I'll do. I'll modify the will.
No.
I'll leave
it's more fun. No, see, but
this is have the actual hands. That's the kind of friend I am.
I don't want the actual hands, though. I want to, like, actually be able to resurrect them in a Lazarus Pit if I find them. Otherwise, I'm happy with the skull.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like, you got to follow my logic. There actually is a logic to this. I got to share this, speaking of it. I got this week from Royd my pages from Secret 6.
Oh, nice.
It's Secret 6 issue 9, pages 10 and 11. It's, for those of you that have Secret 6, I own the 2 pages now. It's the sequence from the old 60s Batman show involving Ragdoll when he was in his, like, little dream sequence and all that stuff. Where he's dressed up as Robin. They're very cool pages. It's very cool to have them and actually to see on the back of it how she sketches it backwards first, and then you flip it over and you see the whole thing. So it's all laid out. It's just cool for me. I love Nicola Scott's art, and she's somebody who I don't have original art from. I've been lucky enough at conventions for other artists that I've met, either got commissions or gotten sketches, and it's something, there's still more artists that I'd love to get, but hers was one. I'm like, she's in Australia. I'm like, I've got to get something from her because I'm so digging her artwork, and I got those this week, so it was very cool to got those. So I want to shout them out. It was cool to have those original pages from that book, just to have that work. I want to get them framed for our little recording studio here, or my office, whatever you want to call it. It was kind of cool. I just wanted to share it on the show and shout it out. Jim, there's another book. There's a lot I want to talk about passionately, but if we could, I'd like to talk real quick about Azrael number 4, because this is a book we haven't talked about at all, and we're going to do kind of like a speeding bullets shout out here, because this was something to me, it was a great example of an issue that really develops a whole lot, but thematically is pulling things off of since we've seen Michael. Michael Lane was one of the people from the this Batman run of Grant Morrison's, that he was one of the Batmen that were originally being groomed to take over for Bruce if something happened to him. And it went horribly wrong, like those things typically do. But now this character is in a position where he's become Azrael. But we get a little glimpse into his past. He was the one where he was shy when he was younger, and his brother was kind of the outgoing one, a little cocky, but confident, where you could see Michael looking up to him because his brother's the one, he will do things and say things that Michael wishes he could do and say. So the brother wound up with the girl that Michael always loved because Michael wouldn't step up and say anything. And those two ended up having a relationship together, and they got married, but you could tell that she was the one that got away, that Michael always loved. Well, here's what happens. Years later, Michael's brother dies. He's murdered. And it was a crime that was unsolved. We never really knew who the true killer was. Well, imagine when it comes to light that the true killer is this girl that he truly loved. Wow. It was one of those things where when you get to see this, and I loved the whole layout of this whole thing, because Batman's involved, Dick Grayson, and Dick's like, you can't tell Michael Lane yet, because if he knows this, he might kill her. I've got to let me get to the bottom of this. Let me find out for the truth of what's going on with this suspect. And I loved that moment. And the funny part was, once Michael found out, because of his connections in the police force, because he used to be a member of the police force, once he found out from one of his connections that there was something that broke on the case, that now we do know who the killer is, obviously he would pursue it. He would be obsessed to pursue it. This was his brother who was murdered. This was somebody who he loved that was murdered. He needed to know the answers, to the point where he actually took a hostage on the rooftop of the Gotham police station, not because he wanted to hurt the hostage, because he wanted answers. And I love that through this whole thing, once he gets the answer, once Batman tells him the answer, Batman's like trying to work with him and say, hey, you can't go and we gotta find out what's really going on here. Did she really do it? I don't believe she really did. Just because the fingerprints are there doesn't mean she really did it. She could be being set up for this. This poor girl, when she stabs herself with his swords, now we learn the truth. The swords do not kill. When she stabs herself with the swords, she is shown that she really did do it. She doesn't remember it. She was brainwashed or, somehow. And how do you deal with that? How does he deal with that? How does she deal with the fact that she killed her husband? How does he deal with the fact that she killed her husband, his brother? What will this do to them? Can they support each other? Will they become closer because of this? Will they take them farther apart? Will this be a tragic relationship because of it? And being that he's the avenging angel,
can he let it go?
Yeah,
it's a tough thing. One, just thinking about dealing with the loss of a loved one always kind of gives me an emotional response. So when I see one brother dealing with another's brother's death and that kind of stuff, and it's just there is always that trigger on me. I got an easy trigger on some stuff, and that's one of the things that is a trigger for me, that it's gonna pull me in. And as the story's going on, I was just like, oh my god, don't know. And I was just I caught myself a couple times stopping reading, going, man, what's gonna happen here? Okay, keep going. And I had to get focused a little bit. This was, Azrael is one of those. This was an issue for me that really is pulling me more into the character. I liked what I was reading before. I was enjoying what I was reading. It was nowhere near, the top or the bottom. It was a definite solid middle stack read. Something I would, it would definitely be like a Friday read, maybe even Saturday, depending on how much stuff I had going on. It's now shifting to possibly a good Thursday night read, because they're building the character. They're developing him, and it's a nice slow burn / build of a character to get me into him, to get me to know what's going to happen next.
What is your Tuesday night sipping Chianti in a smoking jacket read?
My Tuesday night sipping Chianti in a smoking jacket read. Well, that definitely is a little bit more upscale. I'm going to go some of my Vertigo stuff, maybe a trade that I haven't had a chance to get to. Just nice, relaxing. I got some soft music playing in the background, a little bit of light rock, maybe even some, depending on what book I'm reading, maybe a little bit of classical music kind of going on in the background. It's it's the upper crest of my reading stuff, if you will.
I'm not even going to ask you about your Monday Night Angry read, but but this book is one of those. I guess because I was so into the Azrael concept before, I loved the previous series, and I know this one thematically it takes elements from that concept because it's a different order and it's a different Azrael and all that, but because I always liked that concept and I was so thrilled to have it back, this has been a top read for me all along. It's Fabian Nicieza, pencils by Ramon Box, John Staniski on the inks, and colors by J.D. Smith, lettering Sal Cipriano, the editorial team. It's the whole thing. They put together a really nice team. This book, I love the art on it, because it's a great art team for this book. It's real gritty. It's funny, with Vigilante gone, this has kind of fit that slot for me. That style of book, a little grittier, a little edgier, very character-driven, where we're getting to know a new character who I'm finding interesting. I like the little kind of supernaturally aspect to the whole thing. It's something just a little different. And it's a book that we haven't really talked about since it's been, re-released, except kind of in passing. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about it because I loved issue 4. It was just one of those where I'm like, wow, just more reveals, getting to know more about this character. And the more I learn about him, the more interested in him I'm becoming. And I love the fact that this suit, he's like a ticking time bomb. Can he overcome the ultimate part? This suit's supposed to eventually make him go mad. Can he defeat that? Can he overcome that? I don't know. And I like that. That's a neat twist to me. Can he, and what do you think? Do you think he can overcome the inevitable?
I don't know. It's one of those things where I think we're going to see him finally completely lose it. And in that losing it, he'll gain somewhat of his control back. It's going to be one of those things where you can't fight it. You can't fight the feeling. You just got to, go with it.
Yeah, I knew where you were going with that. It's getting pretty bad now when you say one thing and you can, and I just read off of it.
Yeah, well, you didn't catch my earlier reference I did with Batman when I said he's back in time. Huey Lewis in the News back in time.
No, I did. I will be perfectly honest with you. I missed that.
Yeah, you didn't.
I caught it now that you.
Throw another one at you.
Yeah, well, thanks. I'm thrilled that you did. Can we talk a little bit about Cry for Justice number 6?
Oh, we definitely have to talk about Cry for Justice number 6.
It was funny when I read this one. It was one of those when I talked about putting my stack together. It was a Thursday night read for me because I've been with the fact that it was this and Justice League of America number 41, which obviously we can talk casually a little bit about both, but this was definitely, both of them were a Thursday night read. I remember when I did it, I took my stack, I put Cry for Justice on top and then Justice League afterwards because I'm like, well, logically it would make sense that this is the last part of Cry for Justice. And I didn't pay attention to the number, I just put it up there. I was assuming because it was the new team, and I did buy for Justice League number 41 both covers.
Yeah, me too.
Because which I don't always do that, but in this particular case, it was Mark Bagley. I'm like, it's going to be a widespread of the new team with, all the great characters coming on board. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to want that. I'm not going to do that every time they do it, but I'm like, this is kind of cool. So I geeked out and I did that. But Cry for Justice, I was surprised to find that it was still in the cliffhanger. We aren't done yet. I mean, thematically, we know where it's going. I got to be honest with you. I'm liking this series more and more as it's going on. We talked about kind of in Outsiders how dark that is. This is a very dark story. And you know what's winning me over for this? I got to be honest, it's a bold move, and it's a great move, and it was a smart move. For Robinson to be writing, and I don't know who made this choice, if he did or if it was the editor that suggested, if he came, whoever came up with this idea of him writing this stuff in the background, kudos. Because with it being such a dark story, I needed those hooks to make me feel good about this. And getting his insight into what he loves about the characters and what he loves about them made me say, okay, he's writing this dark stories, but he's got a point. He's going somewhere with this. There is a direction and there's an end product that he's looking for with this whole thing. I am glad this was a mini. I think I would be reacting a little differently to this if this was in the main series. I don't know why I feel better about it in a mini, but it is one of those things because it's such a dark story and it's leading to a status quo change that it's working better for me in a mini. And now that we're seeing, like, to have 41 here and as a companion to Justice League Cry for Justice, it's kind of, I'm like, wow, I'm really feeling better about that he's leading to where the events are going in 41. And I love how this organically changed to the fact that he is now working on this run. I'm finding this all just an interesting look into the creative process and how a miniseries can be changed because of a writer taking over the book, the main book. Prometheus. Did you read any of... I know since you've been doing the show, saddled with so many things that have been recommended by me, by listeners, and all that. JLA by Grant Morrison is one of those runs that I know has been recommended to you multiple times by myself and by listeners, but you've got such a stack of books to read. Did you read any of this?
Not yet, no.
Okay. This character... Go ahead.
Well, that was the thing I was going to say with the character. He's got me really wanting to go back and wanting to see this because he is just destroying them. And the first question I had in my head is, has he always had this tweaked of a level? Has he always been this powerful, this dangerous of a villain?
Yes, then no. Think this is the same thing that happened with Hush. Remember how Hush Hush was presented a certain way in Hush,
Yeah.
And then it kind of went a different direction where he kind of got watered down a little bit and kind of came back. This is a great example of that, where there was him, got kind of watered down, then there was another one of him, now he's back, and this is a reworking and a kind of getting back to the roots and the core of the character. So yes, if you read Morrison's JLA run, you're very much going to get this guy. This is a guy that could go to toe to toe with the Magnificent Seven. So it's definitely kudos to Robinson and crew for what they've done with this guy. I didn't see this coming, that it was him. I thought he was controlling him.
Yeah.
So with Freddy,
the whole, he's able to fool everybody, and I liked how the explanation really, you think how he was able to fool him. It wasn't just a straightforward tricking him. He was using the chaos and the anarchy of the situation and whatnot to kind of slip in there. It wasn't a straightforward direct. He kind of was sticking more to the shadows, but not even just sticking to the shadows. He wasn't out there as much. He was definitely doing a very strong Black Ops kind of like mission type deal where he's there, he's present, he's visible, but he's not there. It's a subtleness of espionage and being like a spy that he was showing.
Wasn't one of the questions one of our listeners asked was how Freddy all of a sudden wound up there?
Yeah.
Was it issue 5? I think was that the question.
Yeah.
How did Freddy even? And this answers that. He wasn't there.
Yeah,
it was Prometheus sneaking in and using him as camouflage, using that gimmick as camouflage. So actually there was a storytelling reason why he all of a sudden popped in there. It wasn't bad writing, it was setting up this. So it goes back to that issue and saying, yeah, he just all of a sudden popped in there because of this. That's kind of cool, if that makes sense.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And, when I was reading this, I was really getting jazzed up for, issue 41, especially seeing, the takedown of the team and the other people who I knew were going to be in the new JLA kind of like knuckling up. And once again, Donna Troy, just the sequences when she's like, impaled on the wall, and she just rips, her hands through the spiky thingies that had her trapped against the wall, and just that sequencing, I love that. It was one of those things I wish they could have done a larger picture of that, just because they did a great thing showing the close-up on her face. You can see the grit. Then when you see her doing the, shake, pulling them out, and you can just tell there was like all this pain and, all that agony going through it, and just that desperation of the hero lashing out. I still got all that emotional from the picture. I just wanted more. I was like, come on, give me. I would have loved to see this, like, even drawn out even bigger, full page kind of spread, because it was one of those things where I was just like, dang, that's cool.
Dude, before that though, I got to talk about this. First of all, I want to commend, this was a fill-in artist for this one, and great job to the artist and colorist on this one, for it felt very much like the previous issues.
Yes.
Very good thematically, keeping that same tone and feel. When after he took down Supergirl, and you were talking about how he took down each one, I loved the bits where you hear his research coming back to him, how to take down Zatanna, Plastic Man, Red Tornado, going down to he used Starman to take out Black Canary, but while he's doing all this, his dialogue, I was hoping I could avoid this, slip in and out unnoticed. Yeah, pushing my luck with that, I guess. Still, me getting out of here is your problem, not mine. I have strategic programs to defeat all of you. I just took out a Kryptonian, for heaven's sake. Imagine what I'll do with the rest of you. Just great villain dialogue. I was like, wow, this is exactly who Prometheus was in Morrison's JLA run. I loved this. But then we get the Hawks. And I kept forgetting, I'm like, okay, when this takes place placement-wise, the Hawks are still in the field. Yeah. This is so cool, because we're seeing the Hawks in place. We get to see Kendra in the fight. And, Hawkman, so unpredictable, hard to counter-program for. Your only flaw, the only time you're distracted and weak, when Hawkgirl's in danger. And that was so great, because I loved how he was talking about the unpredictable nature of Hawkman, and how, this was a character that, wow, this is somebody, because he's talking about Hawkman the way I talk about Hawkman. He is impressive. You have to respect him. I'm not making a joke here. I'm being serious. I loved that dialogue because it's a great use of a writer understanding Hawkman and how to use his character and what makes him cool. I'm really not making a joke. It's not a Hawkman joke.
I know, but it is still funny that it all comes back to Hawkman.
It does all come back. Well, but I mean, how often do I get times where we see great Hawkman?
Right
Now, when I see those moments, I love them. Getting to see Green Arrow in play here and Firestorm and all this stuff before Blackest Night. I got to say some of my favorite moments are the stuff he did with Ray Palmer. Utilizing Ray Palmer's powers against him.
Yeah.
And even to the point where he said, this, again, great dialogue. I'm betting about now you wish you never found that right dwarf star matter. Boosting that growth, retarding it in others. Vicious villainy. And Jay Garrick and then the Shade. And the Shade is a character to me I have always loved, and I'm so glad to see him make an appearance here. I know Robinson's talking about possibly making another Shade series or another Shade miniseries, and I'm hoping that comes to fruition because it's one of the highlights of the Adam and Hawkman Blackest Night issue. It's a highlight here. I love this character. He's just fantastic. The Donna Troy bit, though, where we get to see him see her take down Prometheus, and yet he has another card to play.
Yeah, it's already been in place, and I love that. I love seeing, just as I said, we had that cool moments, and she continues on that Amazonian rage, the warrior code, but this guy is a planner. He knows what he's doing. He had the backup situation already lined up. If everything goes wrong, he's still going to get away. He's still going to win. And that is a great, great villain moment. This is a villain who can win this fight very easily, and you understand how he's doing it because he's playing against the hero's greatest weakness, and that is, the hero code of protect the innocent.
It is when they're finally interviewing him and not interviewing him, but interrogating him, whatever you want to call, and he plays his card and talks about Star City, and that is his demonstration. Talk about a villain who's saying, not only, I've got these in so many places that I'm going to give you a demonstration right now. You're actually going to see this. We're not playing any games here. This is me again. I have the negotiating tactics here. You either let me go or else you're going to see all these things happen. Wow. It's funny how this issue for me, this is a miniseries where we were talking about Outsiders before, how I was unsure about it. This is a miniseries I've been unsure about pretty much so all the way through. This issue corrected a lot of that for me, and in the sense where I'm really excited about seeing issue 7, the conclusion, how this all plays out. We know from issue 41
how it plays out.
Yeah, but I want to see it.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those things when I started reading 41, and there was some big spoilers that 41 gave away on the ending that I was like, part of me was like, oh man, but then I started thinking I want to see it play out, and it was one of those weird emotional rides for me because I loved reading 41. I thought it was a great story being told, but part of me wishes they had just postponed it 1 month after 7 came out so I'd get to see that full thing flesh out in 7, because 6 ends with him, basically with a great bluff that, well, not even a bluff. It's the ace up his sleeve saying, see, here's Star City. I'm already destroying that. I can do this to every city.
Did that bug you, knowing it? I'm not saying you're wrong for it. I'm actually curious because I had a very different experience with it. And I'm not saying you're wrong. It's interesting because I think every reader's a little bit different as far as what things kind of hit them when there's reveals, because it is a reveal. Chronologically, it takes place, issue 41 takes place after Blackest Night. So we've now seen a issue that's been released that's blatantly after Blackest Night. We know not only the reveal to the end of issue 7, but the end of Blackest Night to a certain extent. It stayed pretty general, but did it bother you? What bothered you more, knowing the ending of Cry for Justice or knowing certain things about Blackest Night?
I would actually say it was knowing the end of Cry for Justice. Really, and I don't want to say bothered me. It was one of those things I wish in a perfect universe I wouldn't have found out, the ultimate ending on what happens to Prometheus. Because we see it in 41, what actually happens and how it finally plays out. It was such a cool ending that I would have liked to seen it in 7, but I know I'm going to enjoy reading it, and it made this issue a great read. So I got a good book out of it, and I got a good story out of it. Part of me would have liked to have seen the ending only in 7 and just wait until that issue and then, rocked it, but I think it was more of the, this spoiler.
You know what? I guess, you know why? I've got to be honest with you. Out of the 2 books, when I initially picked up my stack, I grabbed Justice League of America first because that was what I saw. And I was so excited to start seeing a Justice League team come together because we've seen Justice League be in a very dark place. Where these heroes have been kind of dealing with Blackest Night and the team in turmoil. I'm like, I want to see a team that feels like the Justice League again. I want to see the formations of that. So I picked that up, and that's where my head was at. So when I picked that up, I grabbed Cry for Justice because I'm like, okay, chronologically, I'm probably supposed to read this first. And I got to the end with the cliffhanger. I'm like, really, a cliffhanger? But this new team's in place. So when I opened it up, I'm like, I got the little tidbits that I needed. What's going on with Blackest Night. I wasn't shocked about that. I think we all knew they were going to wake up. But because we already saw some of it with Wonder Woman. So, big shock there. But I think more interesting to me was this formation of the team. Seeing that there's members like Mari who we've seen that she's been hurt in previous issues. I'm sad to see Vixen go.
Yes.
Because I really, really liked Vixen as a part of the team. I know the Detroit League's going to be appearing at some point in time next year. We're getting something from them next year. I know that was revealed over those big reveals in December, that the Detroit League's coming back. So I want to see those characters, or, at least what characters we see from the Detroit League back again. Donna Troy, though, and seeing these moments with her post Blackest Night, and post the things that we've seen with her in Titans, when she's been dealing with Roy, and seeing that she's in this place, and Diana saying, I know what you need right now. And the reasons why Diana wants her in this place. I've got something to offer you right now that, in all honesty, I think is going to give you a new purpose. It explains why she's going to be there. That you're ready for this step. You're ready to be this person. The Justice League needs you. You need the Justice League. It's an interesting reason to bring these characters together that are it's a team that's in a transition phase, and it's characters that are in a transition phase that need to come together to both be something more.
Yeah, it reminded me when the Justice League, issue 1, when we had the Trinity there together and they were picking who the team was, and as that's going on, it's kind of building in the background based on, the dealings, with, what was going on and how they needed the different heroes for the different stuff. This had that same kind of feeling where it was like, okay, we got to get the band back together. We got to do this. We got to regroup. We got to rally. We got to come together right now.
Tomahawk and Miss Liberty in the past and that artifact. I love bits like that. I just thought that was very well written. I love seeing, where they bring in these little elements and then bring it to present day, and how this artifact obviously is going to be playing a lot more into all of this. It was cool that they were setting up a story, obviously an event for the Justice League, while taking us through the paces of bringing this team back together. And the Titans is a great example of pulling these characters. Who would Donna go to? Corey, Vic, characters who, hey, if the Justice League needs to be put back together, the team is sick, the concept is sick. We need Justice League to be there as a symbol for people. And if I'm going to go to people that I can rely on to be pulled in for this, who am I going to pull in? Vic and Corey. It makes sense. We've got people now gathering together, members of the Justice League. And then we see, obviously, Batman. Oh, Mark Bagley draws a really nice Batman and Robin. I loved the rendition of these two in this book. They look really good.
Yeah, and this was a nice, just, dealings, and, show the action sequence flowing through the bam, bam, bam. This is the fight sequence, and the whole time as they're going on, she's just watching. She knows they can deal with the problem. And I thought that was just a cool, just, flesh out moment, great way to introduction, and just, once again, the dialogue between the Titans, the dialogue between them is just so spot on that it feels like these are longtime friends talking, and it's time to do what we got to do.
I love that the dialogue between Dick and Donna feels like the dialogue we get sometimes between Bruce and Diana.
Yeah.
Just in the sense that we see Dick Grayson slip out of the Batman mode, more into Dick Grayson, more into Nightwing mode when he's around Donna. There's something about Donna that the respect, the friendship, it's not about putting on a mask, it's about being yourself. Being with this person. This is the longtime friend and confidant, somebody that he respects. And I love these moments between the two because they're both joking around with Damian. And I love how she brings that playful Nightwing side out, the tongue-in-cheek, where Nightwing's not afraid to, kind of poke a little bit here at Damian.
Crack a little joke.
Yeah.
And that little smirk that he gets. And it's weird seeing it on Batman, but I enjoy seeing it on Batman. Because it's, I really kind of grew up more with the darker Batman. And then as he later on started coming out a little bit more, started, being, less of the, loner, lone wolf kind of, dark brooding Batman. I was liking that. And then as Dick is continuing on, he is Batman to me, and it's a happier. I don't even want to say happier, but he is. There's more of a personality behind the cowl, and I like seeing that. I'm glad that we didn't lose that, and seeing him with his friends like this. We should have that. We should have, just a little, and even the joke he plays on her about saying, "Yeah, so now you're dressed. I can tell what you're here for." And he plays out the whole Batman greatest detective, figure out exactly why she's there. He's like, "Really?" He's like, "No, Vic called me ahead of time." I laughed out loud with that.
What I really loved about this is we see a team in The Outsiders, like, kind of coming apart right now because of circumstance. I needed this for balance. I needed it for Cry for Justice as well, to see the team coming back together again post Cry for Justice. So I think that's why I kind of quickly dismissed the reveals and just moved on to what I really wanted to see all along, and that's this. This made me feel good. This issue 41 made me feel real good to start seeing Donna Troy, we're your new Justice League, Dr. Light, and to see these characters who really have earned that spot. Cyborg and Corey and Donna, seeing them together. We've got 4 Titans here right now who are in this spot. And it's just so cool. And Mon-El with Guardian and Dr. Light. You like to be Superman? Superman was in the Justice League. And just these reasons why you would pull these people. These are our headliners on Earth. And Hal. Hal going off to Ollie. And seeing Ollie in this dark place, kind of setting up where he's going to be going. What happened with Star City, and I'm intrigued to see not only what happens in the last issue of Cry for Justice, but what is this secret of Ollie's? There is a secret of Ollie's that we're going to find out. Is it because of what happened in Star City? Is it something from his past that we never knew? What is this thing that is going to have the Justice League hunting him? But to see that last page with Batman, well, for starters, don't go down this road again. You do it every time things go south. Green Arrow, man alone, every damn time. You need your friends around you, Ollie, your teammates, and then Batman with the Justice League of America. There's something about that, and Team History continues next issue. Just a great thing. I'm like, woo, this is so what I want to see.
Here's something that I was, kind of thinking about, because when I first read through this, I was, as I said, I had a little bit of emotional response that, we found out the spoiler on 7, what happens. But then it was the Ollie sections. I'm like, I don't know if we did get to see the whole story.
Oh, we didn't.
Part of me's wondering if Ollie goes for some vengeance. If Ollie goes after Prometheus, if Ollie does something maybe that the rest of the team doesn't realize he did. To get back Star City, to save his, or after Star City's been destroyed, maybe Ollie goes on the hunt.
Do you think, though, that's why we know certain things and other things we don't?
Right.
There's big reveals coming in issue 7 of Cry for Justice that maybe we shouldn't know right now. See, I'm thinking that this was done purposely.
Yeah.
And sure, we do little tidbits from Blackest Night, but really, what do we know? Did anyone doubt that those characters who didn't have their hearts ripped out were coming back? No, because we already saw Wonder Woman. So, big deal. That wasn't really a major reveal from Blackest Night. We don't know how that all wrapped up, and we don't know if anybody else comes back. Because I think we were all pretty convinced Superman was coming back. The Flash, Kid Flash, kids like, people like that. Green Arrow, we knew all those characters were coming back. So no big deal on that. I don't know anything about the characters that had their hearts ripped out. Do any of them come back? Which is really, to me, that I would be more irritated about that being spoiled. Because we would know then that that's possible. Although I can't wait to talk about Adam and Hawkman. Just because of what Ray Palmer says at the end. And I'm going to stay there, just to try to stay away from spoiling that right now. No, I want to talk about that. I'll put a spoiler on this about it.
Okay.
Because I know you and I both read that. Ray Palmer better be a genius. Because there is no way you lay out for me that Ray Palmer's going to try and find a way to bring back Hawkman and Hawkgirl, and he doesn't do it. Ray Palmer, you figure that out, or I'm going to hunt you down like Ollie. Ray Palmer is now going to become my newest favorite hero if he brings them back. That last line in that whole issue made that issue for me.
Yeah. Well, I love that issue. It was just a great usage of Ray. Once again, they're really promoting him as a hero, as just, the guy he's a comeback king. He's dealt with a lot of this nasty inner turmoil. He ran from it. He, in a way, he turned his back on being a hero because he couldn't deal with it. Well, now, not only is he dealing with it, he's dealing with it the way a hero should. He's confronting it. He's trying to change what can't be changed. And I love the fact that he's thinking his first real thought was, hey, I got to bring my friends back. You got to help me figure out a way to bring them back. And I think we're good. I'm willing to bet we're going to see it now, and it's going to be told in the story, and it's going to get fleshed out. I don't know where.
Well, in Blackest Night 7 says to be continued in Blackest Night 7.
Yeah.
So the ending of that, but that moment at the end, help me figure out how to bring Hawkman and Hawkgirl back to life. That was, to me, the whole issue. When I went all the way through it, right when I got to the end, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a great ending. What a great ending. I mean, that speaks to me. Very cool ending to that issue. I loved it. It was funny how the whole thing was going through, and I'm like, am I going to get anything of Hawkman and Hawkgirl? I like Dead Hawkman, but I like live Hawkman much better.
Yes, he's much better when he's living and breathing.
Mm-hmm. Now what I want him to do is figure out how to bring their series back. He can bring them back to life first, then their series back. If he can do all of that, I will be so compassionate for Ray Palmer.
Now, here's a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's say they bring back Hawkman, and they bring back Hawkgirl. And
let's say that.
Let's just say that it's out there, and yes, it happens. Mm-hmm. Would you want to see him, you can only pick one. Would you want to see him in a solo or with the JSA?
Solo. Not that I wouldn't want to see him with the JSA, but I like the JSA lineup right now on both teams. I'm into the books. I don't think that he's needed there. I would love to see him in a solo. Now, if they're not going to give him a solo, put him in JSA.
Yeah.
That would be my second choice. My ideal choice would be, I don't want to compromise both. But I honestly, to me right now, I think the JSA team, Willingham and Sturgis, there might be a plan to bring him back in there. They might already have a plan for what to do with him. I'm also not against the idea of seeing him on Justice League. Yes, although they've got a pretty hefty team there right now.
Well, they got a full lineup, and it's, I like seeing what we got going on here. We have a lot of, nods to the traditional heroes that should be in the Justice League. And
newbies too, though, because you've got, as far as really previous Justice League members, we've got Atom, Green Arrow, Flash, and then Dr. Light. Other than that, none of these people have been on the Justice League before.
No, I'm not saying people who've been on the League. I'm saying like a nod to, kind of what is the Justice League.
Oh, I agree.
They have their Superman. They have their Wonder Woman. They have their Batman. They're not the people who were there before, but they got that dynamic going on. So I'm saying JLA's got a really stacked lineup as it is.
I totally agree with you. I wasn't disagreeing with you. It was more of I found the whole thing interesting because they've got like that archetype that I really have liked in the Justice League. I liked it when they started this run. I liked that there was a mixture of characters.
Yeah.
I think Justice League is great when you've got characters that belong that haven't been there before, mixed with characters that are iconic. I think that's the Justice League to me. There's a great balance here. I'm ready to read Justice League stories where they feel like a premier team again. And this issue, I think it's why I walked in looking for that. I grabbed that first. Like I said, Cry for Justice, I put it on top because chronologically, I was figuring that I was supposed to read it that way. But I was really, when I read Cry for Justice, I'm like, I want to read Justice League so bad because I'm dying to see Dick Grayson. I'm dying to see Donna Troy. I'm dying. And it really was these Titans characters. Yeah. It was funny how much of a draw they were for me. It was very cool. And Mon-El, to see a little tidbit to him. But it was the Titans connecting. I ate all that up.
Yeah. Here's the one character that I still... in Cry for Justice, he seemed like an interesting person, and just the stuff that Robinson has said about him, I'm thinking it's going to be an interesting read. But Magilla Gorilla, I don't know if I like him on the team yet. He's one of those characters where I'm like, do they really need him there? And
I'm wondering though if his development, I don't think we've seen. Cry for Justice took some twists and turns that I think changed for Robinson because he was taking over the team book.
Right.
So I think a lot of the development he's probably going to do with Kongorilla in that is now delayed for the book, if that makes sense. Because he probably planned a nice, finite, wrapped-up story in the miniseries with him, and now he's leaving some of that open-ended because of the fact that he gets to work with the character much longer in the Justice League of America book. So I'm guessing some of that's the case. It's very similar to in Cry for Justice, Batwoman was supposed to be in it, but now she's not because, again, it took a different turn than he had originally expected. So that's one of the things that I've loved about reading the backups, his dialogue in the back. It was kind of cool to see through a creator's eyes what those changes are and how they affected his story and how he crafted it in a different way because of that. I kind of like that. It's something where I wish we'd have the opportunity to see that more often. I'm sure that took him probably a lot of time to put together. But I thought it was very cool, and it was a great way to connect with him in a book that it was initially hard for me to connect with because of how dark a Justice League story it is. It was funny, though, the Cry for Justice, just talking back about that for a second, I think part of the thing that and a lot of the reason why I kind of connected with it deeper than I thought I was going to was because it was a mini. Knowing that it was going to have a finite ending. And
it now kind of has a... Well, it's going to have a finite ending, but there may be more of an open-ended ending,
right?
As even more connection to the new Justice League, story arcs.
Right.
So I'm curious to see that. That's once again, as I sit here, as I initially complained about the fact that they spoiled the ending, I'm now throwing out possibilities where maybe they didn't do a spoiler. Maybe this has just been one giant tease, and we think we know how it's going to end, but it's going to be another twist and turn in it. So I'm like, I'm excited to read 7 going, yeah, there may be more coming. There may be something else out there. I don't know.
Jim, can we talk just casually really fast about Supergirl? Because I'd like to get some Superman talk on here.
Oh, sure.
And Supergirl's a book. It's funny how this has been such an amazing year for this character and how much I really think Supergirl feels like an iconic character now, feels a part of the Superman world. She's so affected by it, yet I love that she doesn't feel like she's instantly older than she is. We've seen her grow over time. I love this character. This Lana Lang story, I loved that Lana's story and the reveals of what's going on with her and that this bug that started crawling out of her, all of this stuff was revealed while Supergirl was being possessed because she would have left the battle, any battle, if she would have heard Lana in danger.
Yep.
But because she was possessed by somebody else, this is something that she missed. Great pacing and great writing because we flash right to Lana collapsing into this battle between Silver Banshee and Silver Banshee, seeing this history of the McDougalls, and the artifacts, and that Silver Banshee is really trying to find a way to break her curse. And I like this. It's an interesting little twist it brings into the mythos. I like this because I'm enjoying the concept that Jeanette from Secret Six is from a similar type of archetype as these Silver Banshees. So I'm into this whole Silver Banshee concept in a way I never really was crazy about the Silver Banshee as a character, and now I'm into the whole thing.
Well, yeah, now we're seeing there's a little bit more to the character and more to what, they're about. It's not just, about a bad guy, doing bad things. There's actually, in a way, someone trapped in there who wants to be free. They want to be free of this curse. And sometimes it's maybe some of the nasty stuff that she's done hasn't been of her own control. There's, definitely a tainting of who she is in there. It's, so that's what I'm wondering, if we're going to get more of that get fleshed out. And if so, where?
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you, and this is very, very cool to me. I love that this police officer who has become connected with Supergirl, Henderson, is becoming more and more a deeper part of the story, especially with now that the artifacts tied in. I'm a big fan of these books now, and it's so many comics now. I'm such a fan of the fact that we're getting supporting cast in all of these books that are being fleshed out and that are sticking around, because I'm enjoying reading them. It's one of the fantastic things about my read this week was just I love following like Henderson. Partway through their little discussion, though, at the end when Banshee kind of leaves the scene and all that, is that they're broken off during their conversation because she hears about Lana now, and basically shows up in time for Lana to quote unquote die. And another great reveal in this book is that she shows up quickly in civilian clothes, so not to ruin the identity. And as she's talking to the doctor, she starts to sit there and, did you run a full blood count? Lana said she's having problems. Realizing that, wait a minute, they haven't gotten to the bottom of this. Is Lana really dead, or is there something else going on there? She's discovering the mystery here. And I think we are, as readers. I love that in this issue we realize Lana's not dead. There's something more going on here. She's in this kind of cocoon of sorts. I don't know what's going to come out there, but it's Supergirl number 50 is coming out next, and it's kind of a nice little lead into this. This is a book that I'm really anxious to follow into 50 issues. It's funny how she was a character that was so unlikable to me, and I wanted to talk about this. I know you and I are both ready to kind of wrap up at this point, but I wanted to talk about this character in general because I remember when she first came onto the scene, I loved seeing what they did with this character to bring her back in Superman, Batman. It was cool to see her in her series, but then she became quickly a character that was unlikable because she was so standoffish from the Superman mythos and so fighting against it. I applaud them for going that route because I think she's so much more interesting now because we've seen her grow into the character that she is now. Talk about a character who went through some rough stuff and was a rough character to read for a little bit, but then to see her gradually come to this has, to me, made her all the more interesting.
Here's the thing with her and me. And you pointed out a bunch of the little stuff that just, and I don't want to say little stuff because for me these are big moments where she changes into the the street clothes to protect the secret identity. Mm-hmm. When she had that whole thing going on in the bank where she was trying to protect her secret identity but also then expose the other Kryptonians. She had the dealings with that earlier with the with her choosing her which guild she's going to be a part of. She had that great story arc of her.
That was my favorite issue of the year with her.
Yeah. And then even before that, the stuff with dealing with the cancer and the constant repercussions of all this. These are things that is about this character. They're developing who she is. And it's a build and a build and a build. And it's, once again, just wonderful writing. And I've loved the art decisions they've gone with. Now, we didn't have Jamal's artwork on this one. Still beautiful artwork, but I'm really looking forward to Jamal coming back on issue 50.
Me too.
And seeing what they're going to do there, because I really love the way he draws Supergirl. I think that is just, he and Sterling Gates just have this great connection on creating the physical, physical images to what I'm reading, to what I'm thinking I should be seeing. So that's, this is a way high kudos to a creative team for what they've done to this character.
I would love to talk to an editor at some point. I don't know if I never, it's funny, you and I don't always seek out people to come on for stuff like this. I would love to talk to an editor at some point about what goes into the decision as far as picking an artist to fill in for somebody, because they've made some really good choices on Supergirl. Because Jamal, and his creative team, they've created a certain look for this book, and a certain tone and feel since, Sterling Gates and the whole crew took over. Thematically, they've kept a pretty consistent style and feel. I'm not saying the look, because, obviously when there's a different artist, you're going to get a little bit of a different look because of that. But it is something where, and it's, a lot of this having the same colorist and things like that on for those issues, that's going to do it thematically as well. I'm glad that they've done that, because it still felt like Supergirl even when Jamal wasn't on the issues. And that's, I'm with you. I've adored Jamal's work since Firestorm. It's that Firestorm was the first book where I really noticed him as an artist, and it was something where I just loved that whole series. Every issue that I picked up when he revamped that whole costume and that whole look, it was something where I'm like, boy, this is a guy that really gets how to, make a character current and yet keep that iconic comic book character feel to him. It still felt, I was a Ronnie Raymond fan, it still felt like the Ronnie Raymond theme, kind of like we were talking about Azrael before. How it feels like an Azrael book, even though it's a different Azrael. It's got that kind of thematic feel to it. Jamal gets how to do that, and that's one of the things I love about him. And I got to applaud editorial for when they have fill-in artists on Supergirl, that they don't feel so jarringly different. It's definitely different. I notice it's not Jamal, and amen to you. I'm with you as far as I'm anxious to see him back on 50, because I loved his issue 3 of World's Finest. To see him do Supergirl there, and Batgirl there, the team up, and I'm glad that he did that. I'll take a fill-in artist on Supergirl to see him do Supergirl and Batgirl together, because that was cool. But now I want to see him back on 50 and to see what he's going to do with this character in this big, coming up issue, and what's really going on with Lana. So I'm hoping that Lana survives all this.
Oh, I think, come on, she's going to.
We got a death coming though in all this. You do know that. There's a death in the Superman universe coming. That was one of the things they hinted at. So who? I hope it's not Lana.
I can't believe it's Lana. I think we're going to see her come back as the Insect Queen or something like that. Because she was the Queen Bee or something like that, right?
Lana?
Yeah.
Was it Queen Bee?
Wasn't Lana? Doesn't she have a history in the Superman universe of being an Insect Queen or Insect Lady or something like that?
I don't remember that. I haven't read every issue of Superman though. So I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe she was. Where are you getting this from?
I could have swore, classic, Superman, where that's one of the things that happened to Lana.
The first Insect Queen was Lana Lang, Superman's romantic interest in his youth. Whoa. Where'd you get that from? I'm impressed. I looked it up. I'm like, I don't know this. I'm not going to pretend I know something I don't. This was from Superboy 124, October 1965. I'm just looking up on Wikipedia. That was from Earth 1.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's...
Well, yeah. Well, if you remember back, they had the one Superman when she was still in charge of LexCorp. And she went to that moon base where the insect was, and she was kind of shifted into being the Insect Queen back then.
Now, in New Earth, they did it that a new Insect Queen was introduced... And she was an insectoid alien who first appeared in Superman number 671 to 673 in 2008. Yeah. But it was a nod towards the Silver Age continuity that this alien insect remade herself in the image of Lana. So I don't know with what is considered in continuity with that. But, because Earth 1 isn't necessarily our continuity.
Right.
Some of it is. So I don't know. Kind of cool, though. Good for you that you kind of caught that.
I have my moments.
You do. I know, it's kind of cool. I like Supergirl. I wanted to, before we wrapped up, I want to talk a little bit of Superman stuff. I'll make sure we do it on the next part. There's so many books that I wanted to talk about this week. And honestly, we do have to wrap up this segment here because I want to get this show out tonight. But it was kind of cool just to talk about some of the books randomly from this week. And I want to do this more often because there's a lot of books, that I really want to talk about the next time we do this, because the Superman universe has so much cool stuff going on with Supergirl and Mon-El and Guardian, and I'm loving what they're doing with the Superman books right now. Clark over in the World of New Krypton. I'm anxious to see where does he go from here. This whole Brainiac thing that's coming down the pipeline in the Superman books is going to be very cool. I love seeing Chris back, and Nightwing and Flamebird, and that whole concept is very cool. It's just Superman books to me have been pretty darn near perfect.
Yeah, and over on the Source, they got a couple sneak peeks at some of the stuff coming down, a couple pages from the end of the World of New Krypton. So I'm like, just give me a nice little teasers into it. I'm like, dang it.
That Source
I want
blog
it now.
is rocking my world. I love the Source.
Yeah.
It's great to read that and see. They've got stuff every day up, Monday through Friday, and it's very cool. So I check it out literally daily now, just to see what other tidbits they throw at us. All kinds of teases of books coming out the following week, and then they've got teases up of stuff coming down the pipeline, and it's really kind of a cool blog to kind of see what's going on. So it's cool. This is just a stellar week. It was funny. I literally planned for this to be like an hour segment, and you and I piped in close to an hour and a half, I think, to add on to our other segment that we already have of Green Lantern Corps. That's funny. Now, Green Lantern Corps number 43 is an interesting one, guys. This is very similar to what we were talking about. Are we going to go into Blackest Night 5? Last time we had this discussion, I was wondering, should we go into, because you and I were talking about this at the beginning, should we go into 43? You and I talked, Jim, on the show through the voicemail we got from Micah about the return of Kyle Rayner in this issue. Kind of quickly how we felt about that. But I don't think we talked about how it built up as much as we could have, because I think this is a great issue that shows really a unique way to bring a character back.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is what I was really struck by, because I certainly did not expect this to go there.
We were all thinking, long time, he'll come back, but
I figured in this mini, but I thought it was going to be a couple months.
Bring back, but and it was funny because I was thinking just the different theories we were throwing out there. I was like, yeah, those would be good theories. And then when this actually happened, I was like, oh wow, yeah, okay, that's kind of boom, have it done.
Myron touched on this before, earlier in the episode, where he said that it's kind of the fun about speculation is that sometimes the things that you speculate about don't happen, but it's still fun to chat about them. And then other times, one of the great things about speculation is that when you're totally wrong, that's fun too. I don't want it to be so laid out for me that I'm always right every single time. Sometimes it's great to be right. It's great for the threads to be put into a place where you figure it out along with the characters, and that's fun. Sometimes it's great to be completely swerved. I was totally swerved on this. I did not see this coming. I had no idea they were going to do this, and I love them for it because we knew he was coming back. I didn't see this. Myron, what did you think of this issue?
Well, I really liked it. And when you look at Kyle's death and his resurrection, it would have had to have happened within the confines of the story anyway. I don't think that his death would have gone beyond Blackest Night just because they're trying to create a new status quo for how death works. And with Bruce Wayne already coming back, would you really want to have two major returns after this event is over with? And like you said, the fun of speculation is trying to think of what's going to happen. But like any good mystery, even though you're working with the detective to try to figure out who committed the crime, you're always pleasantly surprised when you guessed wrong and it was something you never thought was going to happen. And I think in this case, bringing Kyle back now gave you almost a mini event within an event because nobody knew it was going to happen this quick.
I liked the sense of defiance from the characters in this, in the sense of fighting death. They are fighting death here at this moment, and they are all teaming up together to do something that we really haven't seen done on this level, at least in a long time, where you're combating, really, you're saying no. This reminded me of Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Where she was holding down the body of Conan.
They keep doing the stakes and keeping them from taking him and all that, yeah.
It's very much like that, where the rings keep coming at Kyle and they're fending off against the spirits and Conan. Very, very similar.
Yeah, and even like in that beginning when Kyle's ring's flying away and Guy throws out that chain and locks it in, he's like, "You're not going anywhere. Get back here." And he's trying to hold back the ring from actually flying away from him. And it was that ring, going away that finally disappears and breaks his chain. That it was that final piece of that. No, he's not dead. Kind of rage moment that brought in the red ring, which I love that sequence, going from just he loses the chain, he's clutched down over and just in complete distraught over the body. In the background, you see the red ring coming. You see that little dance of red in the background. Then boom, the close-up of the ring. And I was just like, yes, this is a cool, just, pure, just emotional type of just anger, rage, and just every possible thing going through him, and it felt completely real. You have that these are two close, good friends who he just watched his best friend die, sacrificing himself to fight off this unbelievable odds. And he's got nothing but anger towards the people that caused this death. He has right in his eyesight, the people who caused his death. He's going to lash out with everything in his being.
The only destruction Guy's doing, though, as far as killing anything, though, is no, it's not just Black Lanterns. I was looking through to see if it's just Black Lanterns, and they're actually, no, he does go beyond that, which is interesting in this. We'll have to talk about that as we go through, because, how can Guy be redeemed from this is my question. Soranik, we've mentioned this in our last discussions and times before, easily my favorite character of this series. I think she's a Lantern that has been so fleshed out, and to see her fighting for Kyle here, and fighting off the ring, not letting the ring attach to him, doing everything she can to keep it off of his finger, but even when she can't, to see the Indigo come in and help out, and how it's a combination of different rings, different lanterns with different powers coming in and helping out. I love this. I'm eating this whole presentation up where it's black ring after black ring after black ring trying to overwhelm them to get to Kyle. Because it's not one ring trying to get to him. It's multiple rings.
Well, I like that, because you said there, we won't have long before another ring comes. He's like, I was mistaken. You have no time whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, yeah, it's just the flooding, but in comes the rest of the Corps. This isn't just, this is one of their own, and they all have that same mindset that we got to protect Kyle, keep those rings from getting to him. We saw it in the JSA, I think it was the JSA crossover, or it may have been Blackest Night, but it was where they were trying to keep some of the rings to get, when the rings were going towards damage, trying to get it from going to him a little bit. But, that didn't work. Boom, he's, Black Lantern. Here we're seeing it again, the fighting, the heroes who recognize what's going on, they know what to expect, they know, okay, we got to do something about this. And it's, again, that combination of desperation, just hope, probably a little bit of fear thrown in there, but mostly that willpower. That I'm never going to lay down, I'm not going to surrender, I will persevere through this. And that is the Green Lantern. And, it's one of those just cool kind of moments of the Corps where you see them all riding in and hitting at the same time. It's like, you throw down with one of us, you're going to throw down with us all, and we're not going to back down.
I'm going to correct myself here on something. Well, no, okay. No, I'm not going to correct myself here. If you take a look at the page, I will do what I can to defend you, young Lantern. Take a look on the Indigo's finger. There's his ring. See him?
Yeah,
it's
I see it.
on the other hand.
Okay, I see it.
So I was looking to see, I'm like, where is the Indigo's ring? I wanted to see it, and it's in that close-up right there. We see the ring and the staff both being used. So I love Kilowog. And this is one of the great things about this book is that you get kind of a global feel of Lanterns, and then we see Crib's kids.
Yeah, a little freaky there.
Yeah, and it's like Crib's lost a piece of himself, or herself, I should say.
Well, those, in its own freaky, weird way, were her children. Mm-hmm. Even though it was the children she stole from dead Lanterns.
Right.
Because she killed the parents. And, but those were her babies. And it was just, it's that weird psychosis of, the maternal instinct going completely all wrong.
I like how there was this thing where there was this bond between the Star Sapphires and Crib, where, it was, we were going to help you, you made a promise to us, you were supposed to stay with us, that type of thing, where basically on both sides, in many ways, Crib didn't get what Crib wanted.
And no one did. And this was a lose-lose kind of situation.
Because Crib made that promise with the intention, figuring that the Star Sapphires would ultimately help Crib get back what Crib loves.
Yeah.
So if circumstances had gone differently, I wonder if Crib would have stayed a Star Sapphire. Would they have let Crib keep the babies?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't see them, because then isn't that them tarnishing the love?
Yeah,
because the babies don't love Crib.
To be honest, that wasn't an intended one. Even though it's a good one. Tainted love. Okay. So that wasn't intentional. I meant it really. It wasn't true and pure love. It was, for lack of a word, tainted. It was, distorted, twisted. It was,
Crib's giving love a bad name.
Wow.
Nice. We gotta have him on more. This is fun. There's two of us throwing them at you.
Oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah. I'm loving it. It is funny. I liked this bit where she was pulled to where there was great need of love. There was a love that needed her, which would be, kind of the MO of the Star Sapphires. There's a great love that's in danger of dying, and eternal love, which does show that what Sornik and Kyle have, is it Kyle's eternal love, Sornik's eternal love, or theirs together? And I would imagine... What do you think's the tether there? Because Kyle was unsure of things before. Has their relationship crossed that threshold where it's him as well, do you think?
Here's the one thing I'm wondering, and this is going to be another question on top of a question.
Okay.
They're saying 3 hearts attuned when she first gets the mojo, the target, and the issue. Now, are the 3 hearts Guy, Sornik, and Kyle? Or is it Kyle, Sornik, and somebody else?
3 hearts attuned. Or do they mean hers? Hers attuned to them? Take me there now. 3 hearts attuned. Would they be having her heart attuned to theirs?
That's what I was taking it as.
Okay.
It's her heart attuned to theirs, but it could be interesting if that wasn't the case.
Yeah. Because I took it as when they locked her on, they're locking those 2 hearts to hers. Because didn't she act as the connecting thread? I don't know. We'll talk about it as we get to that sequence, because you make an interesting point there. Now, this bit with Guy, I get into this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
This is great. Ripping off the arm. Choke on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Rage doing a great sequence. I was...
This whole bit, when she's sitting there just saying, "Don't worry, babies, little ones, your mother is here. Once I break free of this, I will devour this."
Mm-hmm.
And just, oh man, and it's, as much as I say she is just, she's a bad guy, there is part of me there is a little tug at the heartstrings that in her own weird, sick, twisted way, she does love these little things.
Yeah.
So there is that pain, but it was just, wow. This was, just pure rage, just, firing up. And this was in a way, a cool kind of moment. And I'm curious to see how Guy deals with what he did here. Because, Guy isn't one of those, the Green Lanterns who went on pure hardcore killing spree. He did hold to the code of not taking life throughout the war. He did do it once, but he
hasn't broken the Green Lantern Corps
right.
edicts, though, here. So he wouldn't lose being a Green Lantern over this, because this is an enemy of the Green Lanterns.
But I think the dealing with the...
and he still has the green ring on.
Yeah, oh no, and he hasn't broken any code, but he did have remorse, if you will, from when he did it, when he killed the one, Yellow Lantern. So now here he's killing another one, and it's under the influence of the Red Lantern. So he's been used by the Red Lantern. He let his rage go unchecked. So right there to him, that's a huge thing, because as much as we talk about how disciplined John is, Guy also has his own level of discipline. It's not the stoic John Stewart. He is Guy, but on the underlining,
he had to work really hard to get where he was at.
Right.
This actually is more in tune with Guy we would have seen in Justice League International,
right?
For example. So it is interesting to see that this is at the roots of the character, and it's interesting to see this. Is Guy now? What do you guys think? Do you think we're going to see Guy lose the Red Ring? Or how do you think this is going to play out? Myron, what do you think? What's your speculation on this?
I don't know. It's interesting. If he does lose the Red Ring, he's going to have some help, because if he is a true Red Lantern, he no longer has his own heart and his own blood. So he's going to need help one way or the other if he does go that way. But I could see where he might not want to give it up. I don't know. He could go either way.
We've seen Hal take a Red Ring on with the green. Before and gotten past it. So I'm assuming Guy's in a similar place to what Hal was, because he's still got the green ring. So I'm assuming he can come out of this.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I mean, I think when Hal had it, you had St. Walker help him get rid of, once the blue ring showed up, it allowed him to flush out the red.
So I'm going to be curious to see what ends up happening with this and how that plays out as well. This whole bit with the dying love, your dying love has called me here, Lantern, and seeing the two of them, using her heart to help his heart. And she does refer to it as 2 hearts are one. So could the 2 hearts being one then be the third heart? I don't know, metaphorically. I do take it as the third heart is hers in between them. Because you got Kyle's heart, you've got Sornik's heart, and then her heart in the middle.
And she does have the line how she met the two of them once before when they delivered the baby on the battlefield kind of deal. So there is a already connection between the three of them. So that could be the third heart tethered.
I love the what could be the third heart tethered?
Hers. The Star Sapphire. Yeah. So I'm now not.
I thought you meant that the kid that they gave birth. I totally misunderstood you there. That's why I was asking. The ring coming back was a geek out moment for me. They brought Kyle back to life, and then I'm like, wow, Kyle Rayner of the planet Earth, you have the ability to overcome great fear. Welcome to the Green Lantern Corps. And feels like I never left. What's the situation? And I love how his costume just reconstructs because of the nature of how that all works. Being left with Guy's Red Lantern.
Yeah.
I mean,
first
situation's bad enough.
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
Guy. Oh, man.
But see them fighting. To me, I think Guy is going to get the in this
they're
moment.
Gonna get the red. They're going to
have to get the ring off.
You got a Star Sapphire, you got a Indigo, and you got a bunch of Green Lanterns there. You're definitely going to be able to get control of that of the red ring and get that removed. And who knows? Maybe Guy is that third heart attuned, and the Star Sapphire can trigger that. I'm how when she said there was the three hearts.
I think we're reading too much into that.
Maybe
third heart
very, very could be reading more into it, but that is my other theory that Guy is the third heart attuned.
How are you connecting his heart to them?
Because of his heartbreak. That broke his heart when he watched his friend die.
They were drawn to the relationship between Soranik and Kyle, not Guy. We're talking about a great love, like romantic love.
Well, hold on. Maybe there's other forms of love than just the romantic love. We see not just a romantic love with Diana, where her love and her love for life isn't just a romantic love towards the planet and towards its people. It's love is stronger than just that.
I agree with you that there is a love involved where Guy's love of the Corps and Guy's love of Kyle as a friend, but I don't think it's a separate love to what's going on with Soranik and Kyle. I totally think that Star Sapphire was drawn to Soranik and Kyle, and that's what we saw in that moment. And the part where the Star Sapphire resurrected them, that's the end of that whole three hearts attuned thing.
And it could very easily be. You
don't think that's over?
It may not be. There's still part of me that says maybe that Guy is the third piece in the third cog in the wheel, if you will, between them. And it's not even...
I totally don't want to see that.
And I'm not saying... I'm talking the love of, two friends, the love of brothers. They're not just friends. It's that unspoken love that two guys never say, hey, I love you, man. They don't really
I don't see that having anything to do with what just happened with Kyle, though, because it was that love that she utilized to bring Kyle back.
Yeah, she used the love between Soranik and Kyle to bring him back. Maybe the love between Kyle and Guy will bring him back. That's what I was thinking. It's maybe with the we got the Star Sapphire there, we got Kyle, we got those two things can bring, and plus also that Green Lantern ring that's sitting on Guy Gardner's hand is another indication that he isn't lost yet.
Right.
He can will.
I agree
that
that's
ring
like hell,
off
but
of him.
I don't see the love connection here at this point between these.
You don't see a love connection?
I really
see
don't.
A love connection.
I think you're really fixated on the three hearts.
And it could be nothing. I'm not even saying it has to be. I'm not even going to defend it. I'm just saying that's just an idea that's in my head. Mm-hmm. It's like many things that go around in my head. This one I chose to vocalize.
Yeah. What did you guys think of this issue, though? Because to me, I found, now that we've kind of wrapped up this issue, the thing that I found compelling is that it felt like a very unique way to return a character, and I'd prefer that to like a more traditional way. Myron, is that something that captivated you in this?
Well, yeah, I thought it was definitely interesting. It was certainly unique. I'm wondering if what happens with the Star Sapphire and Kyle and Soranik Natu, if once this is over with, are there going to be ramifications from that? Because they're not allowed to have a relationship. Will this be the turning point for those two characters to say, then this isn't for us if we can't be together?
I guess my question is, the one that still stands, is what is the Green Lantern Corps going to look like beyond this?
Yeah,
because I think you're going to have a Corps that is questioning. The Guardians have betrayed a major trust in my eyes, and I don't think the Lanterns are going to be. are just going to stand.
They're not just going to sit back and just say, "Oh, okay, let's go back to you guys calling the shots." No, it's going to be
the world's going to change out of this. It has to, right?
When I think some of the characters are going to question where their loyalties lie.
And that to me is the intriguing part of a story like this is not only how is this story going to wrap up, but then where does it go from here? And I think that's going to be a lot of where this goes from here is going to be to tell us what does the world look like for the Lanterns after this. I loved this.
Yeah, and it's funny you love this, huh? The power of love kind of deal going on, and that was for me what this issue was kind of about. It was just, and it's funny as the more I talk about it, it's also just the power. It's not just the power of the romantic love, but the power of the love between Kyle and Guy. I think we're gonna see that friendship, that bond do something. Now, maybe not directly with the Star Sapphire reaching into each of their chests or anything, but there is still going to be that connection. It's still going to be that Kyle's death was the trigger. So Kyle's resurrection and return should be, in a way, the counteragent. Or who knows, maybe even, part of me is thinking in the back of my head that Guy may be able to contain some of the rage. And Guy may be able to come back and actually be more of Guy, like some of the green would fight down some of the red. Because he's got his buddy there by his side and he's able to maybe control it. We may see a lantern with 2 rings.
How much? See, I don't want to see that.
See, I don't know. Part of me wonders we may see that. That'd be... And for anybody else, I would say no. But because it's Guy, I actually kind of would like to see that because...
I think it's a step back for Guy. Because Guy fought for so long to be more... And Guy has evolved for so long into this character... See, I think it's where's the difference of our reading experience with Guy.
Yeah.
I read so many years of Guy where Guy was kind of this... he would go off half-cocked and do all that. I mean, I think what happened here with him fits Guy. And I think it's great. But I think Guy has evolved to the point where he's a much different character...
I think
than he has been in the past.
I think the way the story could be told is kind of a way to show what Guy has gone through. If he was just the Guy of old, he wouldn't have the discipline. He wouldn't have the willpower to contain the red. So he's still the Green Lantern, but he can still tap into that rage. He can still tap into that red ring when they need to invoke the power, but he is still Guy Gardner. He's still a Green Lantern, he's still in control.
But then, no, because you got to remember, then otherwise every single person on the planet should have rings.
But they're not strong enough to maintain it. It is beyond a discipline.
The red ring would leave Guy.
But Guy, here's the thing, Guy won't let it. Guy holds on to that and goes, I'm going to use this as a weapon. We've seen
before though that the rings automatically leave at that point and they fight to leave. We've seen people try to hold on to rings before that won't let them hold on to them. It doesn't work.
For anybody but Gardner is strong enough to do it.
It defeats the whole premise of the rings for me. That the rings, I like that the rings are attuned to that person who's got that thing. Because otherwise, you start getting into a point where you're saying, well, Guy could do that. Well, then what's to prevent any person from on Earth just being strong enough to hold... There's a lot of people on Earth that are strong enough to hold on to a ring.
Well, it's not strong physical, it's the strong determination. And it's saying that he's gone a level beyond...
So he's got enough willpower to hold on to a rage ring?
Yeah.
That, to me, then he needs a will ring, not a rage ring.
Well, he has the will ring. He's able to utilize both. Because of just who he is. He's got that, it's like he has that internal fire and that internal rage, but he has the will to control it, to contain it, to utilize it.
Then the rage is not the predominant emotion, will is, and he should have a will ring. I don't want to see it.
I don't know.
I like seeing it in moments like this where it fits, but I don't want to see a permanent, I don't want to see
I'm not saying permanent. I'm saying just through this series. I'm saying Guy recognizes this extra firepower in this battle. Guy that's what I'm saying. Hold on, I didn't clarify myself there.
No, I mean, do I see that possibility? Well, I think it's like we're seeing Barry Allen with a ring right now, Diana with a ring right now. I don't want to see them keep those rings. Do I think it's cool in this series? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if Guy uses the rage, if he's somehow able to use it through part of this, but I think there's going to come a point where that ring has to go.
Yeah. And that'll be his time when he
I'd like to see. I'm all for them playing around with. I mean, I like seeing it with a rage ring right now. I think it's cool. I like seeing Hal with the different rings.
Yeah,
and we saw Hal utilize, and we've seen that. We saw him use the blue and the green together for, that stretch there, which I thought was very cool. I didn't want to see that become a permanent fixture, though.
Yeah, me neither. Okay. Yeah, I didn't make myself clear. I'm thinking temporary through Blackest Night type thing, maybe one more issue or something like that.
I think that'd be interesting, sure. Well, yeah. I mean, we're definitely going to see it for one more issue.
When I see... I mean...
You mean one more issue after Blackest Night?
Yeah, or not even after Blackest Night. It could end with Blackest Night, but I'm thinking just, showing Guy not as a Guy Red Lantern, Guy Gardner Green Lantern, who is able to invoke the power of the Red as well. That's what I would like.
But then
that
makes him part Red Lantern.
Well, part Red Lantern, but he's not. It's one of those things with him where he's like, I am a Green Lantern. I'm just using them for right now.
I could see where it'd be very interesting to leave the ring on Guy for a few issues through the end of this story, where he has this constant battle to control the Red and to try to use it, but to fight against that, to have to control it.
I think, to me, what's far more interesting, though, is being that it's Guy and how deep he's gone into the rage. To me, it wouldn't be as impressive if we have Guy combat the rage to the point where he can suppress it. Well, but then he hasn't really beaten it. I'd like to see him beat it.
Well, he will eventually.
But how long are we going to stretch? See, to me, it's if he's going to overcome it to the point where he's coherent, I want to see the battle where he beats it. I want Guy to have that moment where he beats it and beats it down. Not where he beats it and there's like a little piece of it still there. Then he hasn't. It's kind of like anticlimactic. He hasn't really beat it. Right. I think Guy's the type of character. He needs that moment where he overcomes the rage and the ring just can't. Has no home with him anymore because he was able to overcome it. That to me is the moment I want to see for Guy. Whereas if we don't give him that moment, if you have him like just suppress it, he'll never have that moment because it'll be all this time with him suppressing it, and there's not that moment where he's really overcome it and he's really kind of come beyond it. I guess it's. I guess I'd have to see the story.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how it plays out. It's interesting.
There they are, all alone, except for that old character.
I want to make sure I end the show off with, I got a couple promos just recently, and I want to get them in now because they're very timely for these podcasts. One's for our friends over at the Book Cave, and the other one is for our friends over at the Legion of Substitute Heroes. So I wanted to get those out so that you guys know what they got coming up on their shows. Both have some very cool happenings on them, so here you go.
You remember Beatlemania? Where those poor guys, they dressed, I went on stage and they looked like you, and then they played Beatles songs, and yeah, I heard about that. That was awesome.
Next week on episode 70 of Legion of Substitute Podcasters, Darren, Matt, Scott, and Paul interview once and future Legion of Superheroes writer Paul Levitz. They talk about his past runs on the Legion and the JSA, his upcoming runs on Legion of Superheroes and Adventure Comics, and how to really put together a great comic group. Check it out as the guys hold it together and not ask the question, you remember that time when you had the Legion fight Darkseid? That was awesome. Check out the interview at www.legionofsubstitutepodcasters.com.
Coming soon to an iPod near you, Rick's Comics, a podcast about comic books from the golden age to the present. I'll also be covering fanzines, comic strips, and small press. If you're a comics creator and publishing your own books, contact me. I'd love to have you on for an episode. I'll also be airing every week on Wednesday. And I want listeners to send in either an audio or a written review of comics they like from the past, present, or, possible future issues that we haven't seen yet. And this is Rick, keeping the fun in comics, Rick's Comics Podcast. Hey everybody, this is the Book Cave, and my name is Rick Croxton, and with me is...
Art Sippo.
And this little promo for, if you never heard of the Book Cave, we want to let you know pretty much what we're about. Art, you want to give a quick, what do you think we are?
Well, we're a podcast done by fans for fans. Our concentration is on adventure fiction, usually pulp-based, but we also get into comics. Sometimes we'll get into television and movies. But our big thing is books and the authors. We've had a number of authors on the show already. Will Murray, Ron Fortier, Paul Malmont. We've had Jean-Marc from France, who is the publisher of the Black Coats Press. And what we do is We talk about books, about the history of them, and about some of the interesting things in them and how they interconnect. We get into some of the Wool Newton stuff as well. As I said, this is a podcast by fans for fans. We hope that people will enjoy it and get some fun out of it and learn something.
Yeah, well, most people will find out that a lot of the authors that we do talk to, besides Paul Mimo and Will Murray, are not that well known. Yeah, more of the small press style, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. Well, this is a lot to do with the pulp genre, as it's having its little resurgence, and so we get some of those folks that are into that and who have been published in that area.
I would say most of our listeners would be probably in their 30s, 40s, and up. And there's a lot of podcasts out there that will cover the more popular, more well-known books. We're more interested in the kind of books that we really enjoy. And we think that you will too.
Yeah. If you're a fan of Doc Savage, The Shadow, The Avenger, and some of the newer pulp characters like Lobster Johnson and The Rook, this is the podcast for you.
So make sure and come see the Book Cave every week. We're out every Friday. You can visit us at thebookcave.lipston.com. We'll be talking to you then. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Nothing like the handy-dandy electro-claw for carving through metal doors.
Our next episode is going to be a two-parter. We're going to have Absolute Justice, the Smallville episode. We talk about that JSA episode, and I'm really excited to get into that one because that's going to be a fun one. We're probably going to be joined by our friend Chris Kendall again as we have another one of those in-depth Smallville discussions. Also on the episode is going to be the Raging Oscars. We're finally going to get to that. I want to talk about the books of 2009. Jim and I were talking about how crazy this one was to put together. A lot of stuff to talk about from 2009, so it was really hard to kind of pin things down. So it's going to be a fun episode and a fun recording to chat about. So that's 197. And then, like I said, details for 198, 199, and 200 are also on the website, so excited for that. Sponsoring us is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Check out DCB Service this week for the brand new books and the brand new discounts, and thank you DCBService.com for continuing to support us. InStockTrades.com is your collected edition source where you can pick up JLA Avengers at an amazing discount, regularly $19.99, 47% off, only $10.59. Remember, orders of over $50 gets you free shipping. So it's kind of a great way if you've got a bunch of trades or hardcovers or things like that you're planning on grabbing. Make sure to do that over at InStockTrades.com because I think that's a very cool feature. Make sure to check them out also at the Summit City Comic Con, which is very cool that convention is going to be out there. But thank you, DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support us. I'm wrapping up this recording on Tuesday night, and I'm hoping to have the next show up by Saturday or Sunday, probably leaning towards Sunday. But we're coming back a little bit sooner with some of this content. That's why we've been doing these A and B parts and trying to stick within a set length, because I want to really get in a lot of content that Jim and I have been talking about getting to over the past few weeks while staying current with some of the current books and infos on there. So we'll be doing a lot more of these speeding bullet style, pick an issue here, pick an issue there, part Bs, as a way to keep up with the current books where we're covering some of the older material. Well, I hope you enjoyed this part, and we will see you in a few days.
Bye!